Was it? Yeah. They went to.
I didn't see anything.
How are you?
So they might need a second to read those if they haven't looked at them.
With all the people who were against it, you see the problem. I just find it a little ironic, but whatever. Yeah. And they are better than the one on Main Street, which is close to me.
Good evening. Welcome to tonight's meeting, and we'll call this meeting to order. First, we're going to start out with the Pledge of Allegiance, which is going to be led by some middle school students.
We need to do roll call.
Roll call.
Austin.
Here.
Illingworth.
Here.
Kimbrell. Here. Patterson.
Here.
Rusterholz.
Here. I was just so excited to have the middle school kids here, you know. And our middle school group to say the Pledge of Allegiance is Reagan Duncan, Morgan Keatsman, Reagan Smith, and May Vasek. Please stand.
They're going to sign it. Sign it.
Oh, and we're going to have a special thing. We're going to have signing the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much.
Let them do it again so you can jump up.
You know what? Could I ask you to do something for us? Could you come up here and face the audience so everyone can see you do it and say it one more time? Do you mind doing that?
You're all doing this.
Let's do it. Let's have it do. Okay.
Thank you again. That's so good.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, that's
Thank
awesome.
you. I particularly like the indivisible.
Me too.
That's really good. Okay, next for our moment of silence. We, the people of Colorado, with profound reverence for the supreme ruler of the universe, in order to form a more independent and perfect government, establish justice, ensure tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Moment of silence, please. Thank you. All right, this evening, first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. I want to have a moment of something I need to discuss real quick, something that really came up today, was on my heart today about our agenda this evening that I'd like to put up for conversation before we approve it. At our last meeting, we discussed our calendar, the school calendar. And I know that Tina puts a lot of work into it, a lot of people put work into it. It was the draft calendar. And one of the comments that I had when looking at it is that these a week at a time off and what the impact might be to single parents, both moms and dads working. And I guess some people heard that or were listening or were here in the audience. And they contacted me, and one lady contacted me on behalf of several people, and some other people had called and texted me. So I'm going to propose this. Since this calendar is, people have probably already made decisions about scheduling their vacation in anticipation of this, I was thinking it may be prudent to leave this calendar in place till the end of the year, but then have work through a different something that may be more accommodating to those parents or to interview parents. I don't know. I just want to throw that out there for conversation before we go into approving the agenda.
Well, so we have the 23-24 calendar on the consent calendar portion of the agenda. What you're talking about, David, in part, you're talking about the remainder of this year, but it's not actually before us tonight. So if we want to do something about that, that'll be separate from this agenda. But I read the 2 emails that came in to the board about parental objections to the proposed 23-24 calendar. I totally understand them, being in a 2-parent working home with 4 children who go to school. So I would also support taking the 23-24 calendar off of our agenda for tonight so that we can have more public comment on it before taking a vote on it.
I know this is a surprise, but is there any other discussion about it?
No, I would like to hear from teachers, from administration, from parents on how the week off per month is. We're already getting some emails about it, but since there is some interest about it, I would like to hear and get some more time for discussion. So I would be in favor of that as well.
So are you saying take it off of the
I would
agenda?
move to amend the agenda and take that off the consent calendar, the 2023, 2022. And hopefully we can bring this either, if it's not tonight, to another discussion so we can talk about it and hear some public discussion from it, whether it's a survey, whether we're reaching out, we're sending it. And like I said, I do want to hear from teachers too. There's a reason why this calendar was made, but I want to hear how this impacts our community, our parents, just overall. Like if there's already some, feedback coming back, I would like to hear more about it. And I have a discussion, hopefully, with some of the parents that reached out. So just to hear more on their perspective. So I would like some time on this as well.
Okay. Chris or anyone?
Just to reflect, what I think I'm hearing is that you're proposing that we amend the agenda by tabling, what would that be, 6D?
60, yes.
The 23-24 calendar, take it out of the consent calendar. So I'm curious if we could, before we do that, is it prudent for us to talk about a timeline of when we would want
Well, let's ask.
to table it, when would we want to bring it back on?
When would we need, you did the presentation last meeting, when would we need to bring it back on? When should we have this done, and what would it look like gathering that information as far as from your position?
Well, I know that we do have families that book out trips a year in advance, which is
Sure.
why we've tried to be actually 3 calendars ahead. So obviously the faster the better, but we would need to convene a committee, get feedback. So I don't foresee that could all happen. I mean, we'd have to have a new calendar, propose a new calendar. You're probably talking after the first of the year.
Okay.
And I mean, we've surveyed, and my hunch is we'll find half and half. It's about what we find. So I mean, we can put that back out. We'll find half and half. Interestingly, we were discussing that many schools down the pass are actually following our lead and putting in fall breaks. I also looked at some calendars around the region, and so you have to discuss things like, I looked just down the pass, the Manitou at the bottom of the pass has a late start every Wednesday. So we enter all those discussions up the pass. Cripple Creek has a 4-day school calendar. So there's lots of, sometimes people are like, don't want this calendar, but getting feedback on what calendar. Some people like this calendar, some people don't. There's 4-day calendars. There's calendars where there's a late start every Wednesday. You'll find the number of days off in the middle of the year is usually about the same regardless of district, how you arrange them. So a lot of schools have like 4-day weekends at least once a month, things like that. So it's putting forth all those options to get feedback.
So to gather that information or to survey parents, it would take, what would be involved to do that? And what kind of time would we be looking at?
That's where I'm saying, I think the faster the better, because people will book out vacations. When we shifted, I don't know, Chris, were you around when we shifted it off this calendar? We did have to work with some people that had already, staff included, booked vacations that were then no longer on breaks.
Right.
So we had to work with that. So I would say the sooner the better. The optimistic would be maybe being able to present a calendar in January at the regular board meeting.
Well, I just think, I really want to be sensitive to, I understand people booking vacations and already relying on that. I also hear from people who can't have the job that they had because they have no one to watch their kids for a week every month. That's so, and I'm concerned about that as well. And the single mom, single dad, two working parents. So.
And the hard part to understand is usually then it's like a 4-day weekend. So I don't know if that's what we'd have to figure out. Is it easier to get somebody that helps out for, spreading out those days? Or is it easier to get someone? I know a lot of families that also grandma and grandpa come into town for the week. And so that's the question of which one's easier.
I think it's perfect business opportunity for entrepreneurs to start a business accommodating once a month for a week.
That's what we tried. No one took it up.
All right, so there was one other thing, and I believe that this was an error on my part, is that on number 7 for information discussion items, those would have all fallen under the action. Board may take action on these. So I think that was a miss on my part before we put the agenda out. Since we have legal counsel here tonight, is it legal for us to make these possible action items like we normally do on discussion items?
Yes, this is Brad Miller speaking. This is a regular board meeting. It's designated as regular board meeting. With a majority vote, you can amend your agenda to add an action or to revise one of these to action, sure.
Okay.
You just need to make a motion, get a second, take a vote.
All right. So we have 2 things that I would like to change. Is there anything else that the board members are concerned about or would like to discuss? Discussing this last one that I just mentioned.
Are you also looking at B, 7B and C need an action, potential action?
7A, B, and C, yes.
7B and C?
Yes. 7A, B, and C.
I don't think A does.
A doesn't
Second.
need action.
I'm just having a hard time seeing tonight. Budget conference. Yes, you're right. So then it would be, action would be 8A, B, C, 7, B, and C would go to an action item.
Well, just as a consideration, we received this agenda as a board. When was that? Monday or so?
Well, the
Last-
agenda was last Friday.
Yeah, and so,
Friday before, actually, for draft.
I don't know about anyone else, but the way that I prepare for a board meeting, I prepare differently for things that are on information items and action items. And so I don't know what kind of action would be taken on these 2, but to me, I feel like a little bit lacking in I don't even know what we would take action on. And I would imagine that could have been amended for us sooner. So this is a consideration that it would be helpful that we take these kind of steps to amend the agenda prior to the night of, please.
I would have liked to do that. I just noticed when I sat down to go over this that those were not action items. And I had assumed that they were, and I did not notice until right now. That's why I brought it up. Any other comment about that? Okay, so I believe we should take 2 votes on amending the agenda. So let's do our first vote. Do I have a motion to table the
6D 2023-2024 calendar.
yes? Are you making that motion?
Yes, I make the motion to table the 6D for 2023-2024 calendar.
Second.
Roll call?
Austin.
Aye.
Illingworth.
Aye.
Timbrell.
Aye.
Patterson.
Aye.
Rusterholz.
Aye. Do we want to take a vote on the other suggested change?
Yes, Mr. President, I will move that we amend the agenda so that items 7B and 7C are not just information discussion, but there could be potential action following discussion of those items.
Do I have a second for that?
Second.
Roll call?
Austin.
No.
Illingworth.
Aye.
Timbrell.
Aye.
Patterson.
Aye.
Rusterholz.
Aye. So with that,
Now you need approval of the actual amended agenda.
do I have a motion to approve the actual amended agenda?
So moved.
Second. Roll call?
Austin.
No.
Illingworth.
Aye.
Timbrell.
Aye.
Patterson.
Aye.
Rusterholz.
Aye. On to number 4, District Community Spotlight. We have college credits and certifications. High school principal, Mr. Kevin Burr.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thanks for letting me join you. Is this okay? I never stand behind something, and this is going to be really hard.
We'll take the microphone and wander around.
I do this. So periodically, one of the things that we like to do is not only present to this body, but also to the public to make sure that the things that we are championing at Woodland Park High School are known to the rest of the community, and that we can rely on the members of the community and the members of the board to help us spread the good word about many of the things that we do. I've titled the presentation slightly different than what you've got on the agenda, but it's essentially the same thing. We have an essential philosophy that we work under, and it's called College and Career Readiness for all of our students. Career and college readiness, college and career readiness, they're interchangeable because high school is vastly different than the rest of the education system in any district. High school, we have 4 very, very short years. Kids think they last forever. But as adults, we know that it's a very short period of time in which to get them ready for the next 80 years of their life, right? And we only have one shot at it. And what we do philosophically, am I okay? Man, my flow was there.
Yeah, I know.
What we do philosophically is we try to meet the students' desires. And about 80% of our students walk through the doors of our campus when they have an idea in mind of what they're going to do. Generally speaking, they're all going to college. They're all going to have some sort of career that's going to require some sort of post-secondary education. Now, I'm going to say that again. They're all desirous of some sort of career that is going to require some sort of post-secondary education. Now, post-secondary education can be a lot of different things. It can be a traditional college or university. It could be the military. That's an education. It could be trade school. That's an education. It could be an internship. It could be anything associated with learning more about what you want to do, right? So that philosophy is in place. What we want others to know about us is that we continue to expand the choice opportunities that our students have because those careers tend to change. About every decade or so, we get reintroduced to a new set of either standards that students or that people have to have in order to be able to work in a profession, or a new set of professions that come along the pike that students are interested in. I'll give you a really good example. About 3 years ago, we're members, and you're going to see this again in a minute, we're members of the Pikes Peak Business Education Alliance, and we go to meetings periodically where business and industry come to that meeting and tell us what they're gearing up for and what their students are going to be able to or need to be able to do in order to be hired by them. The most recent one in Colorado was that there's about 40,000 cybersecurity jobs that are available right now or within the next 6 years. I'm going back 4 years, so it was 10 years, in the state of Colorado. Cybersecurity, there's a huge need for it. So we bring that back to our school community, and we start to talk to students about that, engage their interest, try to recruit their interest in some cases, and then build programs to be able to prepare them. That's a typical cycle for us every year. So we do continue to expand choice. We want to build awareness of the programs already being offered. We want to build positive communicators, and we want to demonstrate the complexity and breadth of the programming that we have to have for our students. So what is CACR? This means that a student, when they leave our doors, can go directly to work, or they can enroll and succeed without remediation in a variety of post-secondary institutions so that they're ready to enter a career of their choice. So what are those skills? Well, they're a set of skills that aren't limited necessarily to reading, writing, communications, teamwork, critical thinking, and problem solving, but those are the major elements. We get this information, we get this very sentence from business and industry. They tell us over and over and over through surveys, through education, through direct communication, that these are the skills that they're looking for their employees. So what does career ready look like for Woodland Park High School students? Well, that means students have certifications or they're ready for a specific job before they leave us. Students have ASVAB scores so that they're ready for military placement if that's a choice that they want to make. Students have workplace skills that we identify through a test called Work Keys that demonstrate specific readiness for specific careers. That students have Career Start at Pikes Peak Community College where they're trained in a career while they're still in high school. And that students have internship experiences so that they can gain experience in the real world, not just in a theoretical classroom. And I'll come back to that more in a minute. What does college ready mean? It means that students meet the SAT minimums. The SAT minimums are 500 on the math and 470 on the evidence-based reading and writing portions of the SAT. That's a national standard, it's a Colorado standard, and it's a Woodland Park standard. It's identified in our board policy. Students are already successful in college classes, meaning that they can already get 20 credits before they ever leave our doors. It also means that students have access to a robust STEM or liberal arts high school pathway. It means that students have already performed well on an AP course, and it means that students qualify and perform well for concurrent or dual credit classes. Those things are defining elements for either career or college ready. At Woodland Park High School, we already have a tremendous number of early college options. Early college meaning traditionally, we all left high school and went to college. Philosophically, we believe very strongly that the senior year should be a year of transition, that there shouldn't be 4 years, then a graduation line, and then start something new. We feel very strongly that that senior year should be elemental to the transition. I say out loud to all of our students, I say it to our staff, I say it to parents, that we're very comfortable in knowing that we don't have all of the education, that it's okay for students to be able to learn in other places than the school setting and bring that knowledge to bear in terms of what they know for meeting a standard that does exist within an academic area. So it's okay for a student to spend half of their day in an internship or away at a work study or in a college classroom. In fact, we expect that. We want all of our seniors to spend only about half of their day in a traditional high school setting. So advanced placement is one of those things. Career Start is another, concurrent credit and dual credit. Now I'm going to use language that we use every day and I'm going to help define it for you so that you can share it with other folks. We have several students already enrolled in college level courses at the high school. They're taught concurrently by Woodland Park High School teachers. Concurrent means that our high school staff teaches the class And the college of choice, in this case, it's Pikes Peak State College, they give credit for the high school class or the college class. Those credits earned are transcribed at Pikes Peak and at Woodland Park High School. The collegiate level courses are inherently taught above high school, traditional high school levels. The grading procedures follow that. They are graded as if they're a college class. We tell students you should be expected to do much more. We actually changed the grade point average for those students that take the tougher classes. So if they're taking a college class, their grade point average is 1 additional point. So if you get an A, it's not just worth 4 points, it's worth 5. Does that make sense? Advanced placement courses that we offer are taught by Woodland Park High School staff. By the way, I didn't mention this. I'll get to it. Woodland Park High School staff teach the AP courses. That you see a list of all of the AP offerings that we've got. I believe that's 16, if my memory serves me. These get a GPA boost just like a college class. In fact, it's the exact same. Students pay $96 in order to take the test. And if they score a 3 or higher on the test, the AP test at the end of the year, colleges and universities will normally transcript that class when they go to the college of their choice. Concurrent enrollment is what I described a moment ago, where our teachers are teaching the class and Pikes Peak is giving credit for it. We have 4 different courses right now: English 1021, Lit 1015, Math 1340, which is traditional college algebra, and Math 1260, which is college stats. 3 years ago, I, along with Tina and some others, we wrote a grant for the expansion of the concurrent enrollment at Woodland Park High School, and we got $50,000. The grant was written specifically so that some of our staff members that did not yet have a master's degree could go back to school at the cost of the grant and get their master's degree, so that they would be eligible to be employed by, or excuse me, they would be eligible to teach these courses as defined by Pikes Peak. So that grant is about to come to fruition. Next year, we will add 2 courses in social studies, that's 6 credits, 2 courses in science. So the total opportunity for our students will be 24 credits next year. We do offer dual credit. That's slightly different. Dual credit is a class that's taught at a college that we give high school credit for. There's 2 ways that you can access dual credit. One is that we have some classes that are taught by, is Nate here?
Right there.
That are taught by Nate. Nate is, we've talked to University of Colorado Springs, and we have an agreement with them that Nate is teaching a class called Honors Pre-Calculus, or AP Calculus AB, or AP Physics. He's teaching that class within the syllabus that UCCS would teach a college class. So they're nearly identical courses. And therefore UCCS is okay with a student saying, I finished this class in Mr. Owen's room, I got a B, and I would like to have it transcribed as a college class. They can do that for $52. That saves a parent, in last year's fees, it saves a parent $1,132.
Wow.
We have other courses like Project Lead the Way and our cybersecurity courses that also are articulated with UCCS in the very same manner. So those are dual enrollment courses. In fact, this is your AP Physics class, right? We also have dual enrollment agreements with Metro State University for our culinary arts program. Unfortunately, we don't have a culinary arts teacher this year, but once we get the program back up and running with a certified teacher, Metro State already agrees that our ProStart courses, once students complete the ProStart curriculum, they can apply in the very same manner. For $150, Metro State will transcript the courses with 3 credits.
That's nice.
In fact, these are our students that have done just that. This young lady a couple of years ago ended up with a $40,000 scholarship that she achieved through Metro State.
No kidding.
Career Start is another opportunity for our students. We have about 30 slots available. Career Start is an early start to college. These students leave our campus. They get on a bus every morning. They go down the hill. They go to Pikes Peak State College. And they take any one of these courses that course pathways that they've enrolled in. You can see I think there are 20 of those. Everything from automotive collision technology to automotive service to early childhood education to fire science, health career exploration. This is where students go for nursing. The fire science technology one is really interesting. If you're interested in being a firefighter for our forestry service, they'll get you certified and you can go right to work. In fact, we had a graduate last year that's working over at Buena Vista this year. These folks, when they complete something, they get a certificate to go directly to work. We have 19 kids this year that are in Career Start, and 13 of them are first-year students, 6 of them are second-year students. This program is available for juniors and seniors. Collectively, they're going to get 434 credit hours if they all pass their courses, which right now it's looking good. Ascent is another option for students. Students who want to be able to go to community college at a lower cost for their families, they can apply for Ascent. Now this student who applies and is interested cannot graduate from high school yet. So these students, we've got 3 right now that are taking advantage of Ascent. They're getting their first 2 years of college paid for by the state, and will delay their high school graduation. So when you see our graduation rates, and you see some of those that are 6 or 7 years, some of these are Ascent students. We used to be limited to about 1 or 2 slots every year for Woodland Park students, but right now they've completely eliminated the limit. So if we had 12, 15 kids apply for this and be accepted, they could all go down the hill and be able to get their associate's degree. Other off-campus options. So imagine, if you will, that we might have an advanced student that exhausts the entire math curriculum that we offer by the time they're a sophomore. And there's 2 more years. We don't want those students to take math off until they go to college. These students would be encouraged by their instructor. I see Nate shaking his head. They'd be encouraged by their instructor to seek out, most often it's going to be at UCCS because of proximity, but seek out a course sequence that begins at UCCS while they're a junior and a senior. They apply, they talk to us, we agree that there's no other pathway except to go ahead and start college early. We let them enroll in this dual enrollment option. The district pays for it, for them to be able to continue their pathway without interruption. That's an application process. Anytime a student wants to come to us and say, Mr. Burr, I really want to take 4 college classes, don't worry about it, I'll pay for them. I'll buy the books, my folks will pay for the tuition. I just want to leave campus and go to UCCS early. If they want to do that, we sit down with them. If it makes sense for their graduation plan and their ICAP, we say absolutely. And we go ahead and give them not only the high school credit for the college class that they're taking, but also they're getting their college credit. It normally is a part of their daily schedule. And every year that I've been here, we've had students that have taken advantage of this. We do need your help to spread the word. Just FYI, we've got about 320 kids this year that are sitting in early college class seats. We're offering, as I said, 12 concurrent credits this year. We're going to expand that to 24 credits next year. And the number of dual enrollment credit opportunities this year, we've got 58 that our students are taking advantage of. On another page, we have very specific certifications that our students can complete before they leave us. One is welding through the American Welding Society. We test and give certification, we don't give it, but we seek the certification through AWS for a welding contractor. That's the certification that they specifically get. There's about 25, any welders in the room? There's about 25 or 30 different certifications that you can get through various, cybersecurity. Cybersecurity A plus and A plus plus. We do test those here, and once the students achieve the certification, they walk out the door with a piece of paper and they can walk right into an employer and say, I've got it. Another one's called social media marketing. That is a certification through HubSpot. That's another one where a student gets it, walks into a business and says, I'm ready to work for you because I've got this piece of paper. Project Lead the Way is American Engineering Society, Culinary Pro Start that I told you about, and Career Start. Last but not least, internships. I said a moment ago that philosophically it makes sense for us to say out loud, we don't hold all the educational answers. We believe very strongly that students can get educated about many different things. Mostly they can get educated about how to work in a work environment by actually going and participating in that work environment. Learning the expectations of the real world without listening to an old man say, this is what businesses are going to tell you to do. Why not go out and experience it, right, Mr. Risterholtz?
Or were you referring to old or what?
We have recently shifted the process for getting students into an internship, and that is at the recommendation of a group of schools in the Pikes Peak area that all belong to the Pikes Peak Business Education Alliance. The PPBEA works with businesses and industries to tell us and tell students what they need to do in order to qualify for a robust internship. So we went from about 50 students a couple of years ago that were participating in a less robust internship to now 15 that are very, very intense. The areas right now that our students are serving internships, public safety, manufacturing, cybersecurity, medical, engineering, and business and finance. And last but not least, we do give credit any student that wants to walk in and prove to us that they worked over the summer or they work on the weekends. If they'll produce their pay stubs for us, we will give up to 1 credit of experience and 1 credit of elective for that experience. We got a lot to offer our kids. I did that I think in 15 minutes. Any questions?
Kevin, I think I saw on one of your slides that we had 320 kids doing.
We have, I think this is what you're looking at, right?
No.
No?
Keep going.
As further, closer to the end.
It was near the end.
Yeah, go back.
I think it was the one showing like the change over the years.
It's towards the end. There it is.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
So,
320 seats.
okay, what does that mean?
That means that many of those students are the same student.
Okay. Do you have an idea of how many of our students are taking advantage of this?
It would be a guess, but I could get the information for you very easily.
Okay.
I'm going to say that it's probably in the neighborhood of 90.
I'd go up.
I'd say it's
With the
higher.
AP tests and all that, I'm thinking more like 125.
125, okay.
Between the two
And-
programs.
We have about 600 students in the high school right now?
570.
Okay, cool.
Any other questions for Principal Burr?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have a statement, though. I have a concern.
Okay.
Do we have an agreement with these local colleges that they cannot steal away Mr. Owen?
No. In fact, Mr. Owen negotiate separately, and I cannot disclose that negotiation.
Well, we don't want to lose him.
I negotiate separately. I don't want to lose him either.
I know we also have one coming online for teachers, right? So the new program the state approved, kind of like Ascent, where students that have taken some of those base teaching classes can go and do their first 2 years of their teaching program.
Brand new program is called T-REP.
Yep. So we didn't have any kids that had already taken the first class.
They won.
One now? Okay. So it allows them to stay 2 more years in high school, if you want to think of that way, and get the first 2 years of teaching done. The thing to know about Ascent and that program is we don't even see those students. They're literally on the college campus. They don't come to don't come to our campus. So they report directly to the college campus, do all their classes. They just are kind of in our books, and we're paying for it.
Now, I do have a question then, that, because you just said it, and then Principal Burr said it as well. You said that off-campus and higher education programs, that WPSD pays for that. Tell us how that works.
We're able to count them, so we get state funding.
Okay.
So we use the money, we're kind of like a flow-through. So the state gives us our per pupil for those students, and we do all the count documents for them, and we have an agreement, and we just pay directly to the college.
According to the numbers that were on the slideshow that we were just looking at, it looks to be like there's an increase of students taking some of these classes in college courses.
Yeah, if I would have gone back, even before we were here, historically, it's gone up.
Yeah, I mean, just those 3 years, there was a trend of increased participation, I would say. So that's awesome.
What do we do to market to the kids the trade classes? Because we have about just under 40% of our kids go on to college. Is that number correct?
That's
Around
4
there?
year. Over 40% go to 4 year.
Okay. So the remainder of the kids, it didn't look like there were that many who were interested in the career plan that was available to them at Pikes Peak State College.
Well, we have 30 slots. We had 19 this year that took advantage of it. I don't know if you saw, but there were 13 that were first year. Every one of those this year that's in a first year program requires a second year, so we know that if they're successful, we'll have 13. We may fill all of the slots next year. So that's one answer to your question. The other answer to your question generally about what do we do for students that are maybe not interested in 4 year but interested in other career paths. We do have grant funded. I'm going to advocate very strongly for the district to take over the funding of this. I'm not telling these guys a secret. But we have a career and college readiness office now at the high school. And it's staffed specifically by Jennifer Parker. Her whole role is to meet with every junior and senior and talk about their career paths and what they're interested in. And if there's something that they're interested in that we need to bring an individual in to help recruit, that's her job.
So that's part of her job as well, not 4 year. Okay.
Correct.
Well, and if you remember, that's part of our grant A8. We've enhanced our career and college readiness planning. So we're talking with first graders about jobs and talking with, actually one of our things is our fifth graders are going to start building a resume of their elementary career to present to the middle school, and our eighth graders are going to build a resume of their middle school career to present to the high school. So we've enhanced our college and career readiness curriculum, K-8, so that when they hit the high school, they have some knowledge about careers and options and how tying their passions and strengths to a career in the future and what kind of jobs are out there. So our kids are seeing and hearing about more jobs. So we hope to do a career fair for K-8 also this spring where they get to come and have a big, huge career fair where they can learn about careers.
And I should have mentioned this, and it's my fault. Every student has to graduate from Colorado High School with an individual career pathway, an ICAP. So that gets updated every year. We actually start their ICAP spring of their 8th grade year.
Oh, no kidding.
So they identify something, can change, but they identify something so that we don't miss a pathway that they were interested in. The worst thing that could ever happen for me as a principal is a parent to come in senior year and say, my kid told you all along that he wanted to be a doctor, but we didn't put him in any biology courses. You know?
Well, thank you very much.
Kevin, I have,
We have another question.
you said there's about 570 students in the high school, right?
I think our count, this is
About-
575.
And 125 are going through these programs. Can you just tell me the number of about the juniors and the seniors? What those, how many juniors are enrolled in the school, and how many seniors?
I think our
About.
senior class this year is going to be around one. See, now you're going to write it down.
Well, no, I'm in ballpark. I'll put ballpark.
I think they're all about equal, right? We just
Yeah,
have
it's
to count the
around
kids.
140 for the senior class this year, about 160 or so.
I can look it up and give you.
Well, I'm just ballpark. I mean,
Yeah.
about 140.
Pretty close.
Okay,
Yeah.
so 280 between the two classes. Great. Okay.
Which is a good point, because most of the kids in concurrent enrollment are gonna be juniors and seniors. So,
I think finally, Principal Burr, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, next on our agenda is public comment, and I have something to read for you. Public comment. Please be aware that any personnel or individual student matters are considered confidential under Colorado law, and it is out of respect for the law and our employees and students that we require those discussions take place privately in executive session. It is requested that individual comments be limited to 5 minutes or a total of 20 minutes for a particular subject. The intent of the public comment is to give the Board of Education the opportunity to hear your comments. However, the board will make no decision or take no action on public comment during the meeting. Thank you.
we have 3 public comment, so Aaron Hellstrom, followed by Danny Black, and then Cynthia Bear.
You got a stopwatch or something I can look at?
You bet.
I know.
We make it go faster for Marines.
No, I'll take my time.
We can give you a 1-minute one.
Thank you.
You got it, Kelly.
Thank you for having me. My name's Aaron Hellstrom. I'm a parent of a junior who's going to graduate this year and is in the welding class and loves it. It's a great class. I think we do great things here. I want to talk today about something Mr. Gary, I don't know how to say his last name.
Roberta?
That's him. He brought up at the last meeting about the JROTC program. And I thought with tomorrow being the Marine Corps birthday, we turned 247 years old, thank you. And then Veterans Day, it would be fitting to talk about a JROTC program. Looking at everything that Mr. Burr said, man, I wish I had a high school that was like this when I was growing up. But nevertheless, I see JROTC as something that can benefit our community. One, it builds patriotism. And I know we have a community that's steeped in patriotism. I mean, let's just go down here by Wendy's. There is a memorial park. And it shows the sacrifices made. And forgive me if I get a little choked up because I'm thinking of friends that aren't here anymore. Children who don't have fathers and mothers that don't have husbands. But what the benefit is to the community, to the students, is when I was in high school, believe it or not, I was going down the wrong road and I was a punk who didn't like things. And going in the Marine Corps changed me. I didn't have a chance to be in JROTC to not make mistakes, to not understand the bigger picture of life instead of just being narrow focused. And JROTC will develop informed and responsible citizens. And I think that's a benefit to us. I mean, we should be thinking about the longevity of our community. We shouldn't be thinking about here and now, though we need to. But what are we doing for 10 years down the road? Who are our future leaders of our county, of our Woodland Park city? What are we doing to develop them? And so leadership skills are taught in JROTC. Now, some people think the budget's expensive. It's not. The Marine Corps will come in. They don't expect you to put up anything except for space, a rifle range, a place for them to drill, and they'll provide the uniforms. They'll provide the funding for the instructors. So it's really not a harsh sell for us because we're not putting any money up, but we are putting up space. Something to think about. It helps if I put on my glasses. I was wondering why it was blurry. So I'd like to talk about intangibles. So we have tangible and intangible benefits. The intangible I find to be the most beneficial because it's the greatest individual growth. When you have intangible benefits, such as self-discipline, self-reliance, self-direction, courage, confidence, these are things that we can't touch and feel, but these are indelible things that mark our lives and put us on a path of destiny. It allows us to be challenged, and everything Mr. Burr said, though I don't see. Oh, sorry, I was looking past you. Everything he said, it's about challenging our students. He's not about giving an easy A or letting these students off the hook. He's about doing the best thing and challenging them. And I agree. But besides just academia challenging, to become confident in who you are as an individual, these are things that have to be taught and learned through things such as the Marine Corps JROTC program. They learn discipline, direction, reliance, and the leadership skills. Would anyone agree with me that we could use some leadership skills in our communities, in our nation? The other benefit, cadets. If they go 2 years in the program, it's a 3-year program, but if they do 2 years minimum, they'll receive college credit if they get accepted on the scholarship to a ROTC scholarship. For those who don't get accepted, they can go to boot camp, and upon graduation from boot camp, they'll be promoted. These things are set for them to have advancement if that's the route they want to go. I mean, they don't have to. You know, my son, I'd love him to be in JROTC. But as far as being a Marine, I'd say wait, go to college, further your horizons, do better than I did. So when I look around our community, I see patriotism. I see people who have put in blood, sweat, and tears to make,
1 minute.
Thank you. There's a reason why so many people want to live here. It's gorgeous. This is God's country. I mean, there's no better place for a retired Marine to live, in my opinion. And I think if we can take an opportunity to bring in a Marine Corps JROTC program that can benefit our students and our community by providing details as color guard and community cleanup, it's a win-win. And I ask the board to please consider this. And if you need any information, I'm more than glad to provide it, as I will be a liaison with the Marine Corps. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I don't know. Mr. Burr, I'd like to invite you to respond because we've been talking so much about the JROTC program.
Thank you. It is something that I'm interested in bringing to Willem Park High School. It is something that I have extensive experience in participating in. I have already done some legwork with investigating the pathway. I actually called the commandant at Air Force ROTC. None of the JROTC programs are adding schools at this time.
The Marine Corps is accepting.
Actually, they shared that with me. They're accepting applicants, but they're about 5 years out. They encouraged us to get on the application side. I want to correct one thing. There is an expense to the district. What you have to do is there are 2 instructors, and you pay half of each of the instructors. The going rate right now, when you get a retired military person or a person that is leaving the military to be a part of our JROTC program, it's about 100,000 is what our commitment will be, anywhere between 75 and 100. It's a great program. I love it. I've been around them for a long time. I'm as big an advocate as you are. I'm not a former Marine, but I'll be standing right there with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Next.
Danny Black.
Am I close enough? Okay. First, I'd like to say thank you so much for the opportunity to speak, and I'm very grateful to hear that you are tabling the vote on the calendar. Some of what I have to say might be a bit of a moot point, but I'm going to go with it for the sake of flow, and I appreciate that. My name is Danny Black, and I am the mother of 2 young children who at one point both attended school in the district. Currently, just one does. I attended the board work session on October 26th to hear a discussion around the district calendar. For years, this calendar has caused hardships for our family and so many district families I have spoken with, and I was therefore eager to hear a declaration that, despite this commendable experiment in out-of-the-box thinking, the data is in and the implications for families are too great to continue placing this burden on them. I was both surprised and disappointed to hear that the proposed 23-24 calendar follows the same format as the previous few years, with a week or more off of school almost every month. I was even more disappointed to hear that stakeholder feedback has not been formally solicited and there is no plan to do so prior to approving and publishing the proposed calendar. In the absence of any formal feedback, as a stakeholder, I am here to speak up for my family and for families like mine. With a week or more off of school nearly every month, childcare is a must for working parents. This is a huge expense that parents should not have to budget for when enrolling their children in public school. Not only is childcare expensive, but open spots and facilities with high-quality programming are difficult to find in our small town. Reasonably, what is a working parent supposed to do when they can't secure a spot or afford childcare? For many parents, and especially those who don't have a nearby network of family or friends to watch their children, the only option is to stay home with the kids. This can place great stressors on one's finances and career. At the last meeting, I heard the comment that parents would have to find childcare for the front or tail end of 3-day weekends as well, so it's a problem no matter what type of calendar we have. I would like to respectfully disagree and suggest that more parents are likely to have those federal holidays off of work than they are likely to have random non-holiday weeks off throughout the school year. At the last meeting, I also heard that student attendance has increased and disciplinary issues have decreased since this type of calendar has been put into place. While I'm glad to hear the good news about attendance and discipline, I think it is wise to carefully consider other factors before attributing data trends to any one solitary cause, especially when the shifting dynamics we've experienced worldwide in the past 2.5 years. Today, I am also speaking up for our students. I'm speaking up for students who struggle to transition between school and lengthy breaks nearly every month. Sorry, I'm emotional. For those who lose what they've learned over the course of break and struggle to pick up where they've left off. For those who rely on the consistency and security of the daily routines and people present at school, and whose mental health is at risk in their absence. For those who spend their days dreading each lengthy break because school is their safe place and home is not. I am speaking up for all of these people, and I ask for you to believe that our well-being is worth the time it takes to carefully reconsider the proposed 23-24 calendar. My two biggest asks of you today are, 1, before approving the calendar as is, give further consideration to soliciting and using stakeholder feedback in your decision-making process. 2, if there isn't time for collecting feedback, then please discuss and consider an alternate calendar following a more traditional school schedule for the 23-24 school year. However you approach this, please remember that the calendar is not just a piece of paper to be pushed through and published. It represents our lives for the next year. It deserves your careful consideration from all angles. In all decisions you make that significantly affect our district families, please remember this. The parents who are supported are parents who have support available to give to their children. Children who are supported by their parents are children who are more likely to thrive in school. Please ask yourselves which version of the calendar supports the most essential needs of our parents so they can meet the most essential needs of our children. Thank you.
Cynthia Bear.
Hello, I'm Cynthia Bear. I'm familiar with many of you. I worked with you, and I've had a long history, and I appreciate all of your hard work. I know you guys work very hard in the schools, and you do a lot for our children. I, this year, had to remove my son from the school district after being here since kindergarten, and it was due to a lack of availability of programs for him. It's something that I would ask the high school and the school board to consider changing their policy that students with IEPs are not allowed to do concurrent enrollment or other college advancing programs because John was not able to do that. And he only has ADHD, he's not in a SPED program. He just simply needed some accommodations. Accommodations are allowed at the college level because myself, when I continued my education in order to renew my teaching license, I used the OASIS program at Pikes Peak Community College. And so I know that that can't be the reason why he was denied entrance into the cybersecurity program. They told me that he would not be available, or it would not be available for him to do it with an IEP. And so I wanted to request that you reconsider that or make those specifications clear and available to all students. Thank you guys very much. Oh, and I think everyone here spoke very well tonight, and go Marines.
Really? Fit for 247.
Thank you very much. All right, on to number 7. Thank you for all of your comments. I appreciate it. First, we'll hear from Mr. Chief of Staff
Excuse me, we need to approve the consent calendar.
with the addition, with the,
Right, we already tabled the one item, but
okay.
as it sits.
So D is off of there.
Correct.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Roll call.
Austin.
Aye.
Illingworth.
Aye.
Kimbrell. Aye. Patterson.
Aye.
Rusterholz.
Aye. Now, number 7. Mr. Dell, what do you have for us this evening?
I have budget stuff, so that, I mean, if you guys are, I don't.
Time for a nap.
Get it?
Get your cookies out.
Get your cookies out. Sorry.
Cookie dance over here.
Bear with me while I get this all set up. I promise that the budget stuff is very fast and weigh 30,000 feet. For those of you who have, let's see if it pops up. We might be having technical difficulties. And by technical difficulties, I mean the user.
We have time to open our cookies then.
Yeah, you have plenty of time to stack and eat them.
Isn't it rude to eat in front of others? We get macadamia nut next time. Let's sing.
Yeah, this literally just stopped and I was plugging it in. This just means I have to speak faster once we get going.
Tina.
We can't.
Good cook.
Background,
I wasn't suggesting anything. No budget.
Oh, we can't go out of order, can we? I can do my
Really?
superintendent report.
Can we go out of order? Would it be helpful to go out of order?
Can I do my report, or is that allowed to go out of order? I can go out of order?
You have it?
See, it's because I said I was gonna say no. Like, now it's like, okay, I'll do what I need to do.
All right, Tina, it would already be done, let's go.
I know, I should.
Never mind.
I'm all for going out of order.
All right,
Beat on my underarms.
so we are gonna talk about budget, excuse me, we're talking about budget, it's just an update and some of the process to monitor the budget. The budget's already been, is already finished, and we're not in budgeting season, so we're not gonna go through the whole process of what each code means and all the different stakeholder input, all that, that's already finished. But I do wanna start with just a quick little piece so that everybody is aware of it. And it's the comparison of our appropriated budget from fiscal year 22 and fiscal year 23. So you can see our appropriated budget did go up slightly to this year. Okay, but more importantly, what I wanted to emphasize to everybody is that you can find all of these budgets. You can find where to access and all that. If you go to the district website and hit the financial transparency button, you can find all of the adopted budget, both in layman terms and in Excel terms, if that's what you really want to see. So that was just kind of the start of that. If you attended our DAC, SAC trainings or any other training that we had in last year's budget presentation as well, you've likely already seen this, but I just want to put it up again just real fast. And this is the fiscal 23 revenue side, and so you can kind of see the local share, the state share, all of those. One thing that I do want to point out to all of us is that sometimes we hear, or I hear, that if our local sources go up, then we'll get more money from the state. I think what you have to realize is that as your local shares go up, the state share is the backfill from the state. So if our local shares go up, our state share goes down. So it's always going to be the pie of that. So just, I wanted to keep that out in front of everybody and just remind us that our revenue streams come from the property tax, right, which is the middle times the assessed value, our specific ownership tax, and then obviously the state equalization. There's other pieces of revenue as well, and we're not going to go through each one of those, but you can see we have the override revenue, sales tax revenue, which was put in by the city of Winter Park in July of 2016. We do have flow-through money from special education. There are reimbursements for transportation, a portion of transportation from the previous year's expenditures, and those are mostly special education reimbursements. We do have Medicaid reimbursements, so again, a portion of those expenditures from the year before. And then other local revenue sources to include tuition, interest income, which, that's not real good right now, but actually we're doing better than anticipated. Participation fees, summer school, building use fees, and then this mystery one, this forest service allocation, we're still trying to figure out word for word what that is. It's not big, so it wouldn't even show up statistically anywhere. And then just a reminder of our expenditures and all the different funds. So you can see, again, I'm not going to go through them unless you have questions about them. But those are all of our categories that you can see, with the vast majority of it on the instructional side. And then all of it kind of plays into instruction but salaries and everything play into those types of things. The part that I wanted to talk about tonight specifically was how we monitor the health of Winter Park School District finances. So that's kind of a process piece. I just wanted to go through these pieces. So the annual fiscal health analysis report, you can find that at the state auditor's website, and it's right there, the colorado.gov/auditor. You can find this information there. And it identifies and details fiscal health indicators to monitor each district in the state. So there's about 6 of them that you get a score, and it monitors where you are financially, health-wise, and what we look like. So I want to go through those a little bit. So the first one is the asset sufficiency ratio, or what we like to call ASR. And so what the ASR is really that's just a numeric indicator of how much coverage a district's general fund total assets has over its total liabilities. So layman terms, really layman terms, if you pay our bills over the short term. All right, and so there's a benchmark by the state, and the benchmark in this particular case is 1, and anything that would be below that would be that we're not able to meet that, and anything above that would be that we are able to meet that. So happy to say that through the fiscal year 21, I know we're in 23, and I can't give these numbers at 23 because we haven't finished our expenditures, right? So understand that this is a look back and how we monitor it that way. Right, so again, healthy there. Our debt to burden ratio indicates the district's annual revenue will cover its annual debt payments, a benchmark of 1. And so I just wanted to put the asterisk there. Benchmark of 1, and we're 27.1. Well, keep in mind we do not have bonds, so we don't have that long-term indebtedness piece. So that's going to be a kind of a misnomer number, but that's what ours was according to the state. Operating reserve ratio. Essentially, what this number tells us is if we receive no more income, 0 income from the state, how many weeks would we be able to cover our expenditures? All right, so the benchmark at the state level is 0.0192. That equates to 1 week. It's 157. 50 seconds? 52? What is it, maybe? 50 seconds? 50. It's that number right there. Yeah. At the end of fiscal year 21, so again 2 years ago, Woodland Park was at 0.4457, which is approximately 23 weeks, 26 weeks. What's important is we did calculate this based on the end of year numbers last year, so we're going into this year, and you can see that we were at about 50%, so approximately 26 weeks. I must not have changed my slide. 26 weeks of operating expenses. So if we had no more income, we'd be able to finish half the year and be able to pay that out of our reserves. The operating margin ratio. This is how much, for every dollar that you get in revenue, how much is going to your reserves. And so in our particular case, in that year, we were putting about a nickel for every dollar of revenue going into our reserves. Sometimes you will see districts be in the red here for various reasons. Woodland Park has been in the red here. And where you'll see that is when you have a planned spend down of your reserves, right? Because if you have a planned spend down of your reserves, you're going to overspend what your budget was. That's what it's like taking money out of your savings account to pay your monthly bills. So an example might be we have a really healthy fund balance and we need to put new roofs on the schools, right? That wasn't accounted for in the budget piece, the revenue side of it. What we did do is we spent down the reserve because our expenditures were a bit higher, we would be in the red. So the state, it's a 1 year thing, and that's what you look at, a planned spend down, not really a red flag. If you have 3 years in a row or 2 years or a constantly declining number, the state's not happy with that. Neither would we. The deficit fund balance ratio indicates a length of time in subsequent years to cover the cost of a deficit fund balance. We do not have a deficit fund balance, so there are 21 districts in the state that did and had to borrow money. And so that would be, if you had that money borrowed from the state, that number would indicate how long it would take you to pay that back. We don't have that, so we do not have a deficit. It's not even calculated. A change of fund balance, the CFBR, that's obviously just the how much your reserves have changed at that time as a straight percentage. So you can look at about 12% change in our reserves during that time frame. All right, so after we talk about how we look at the budget, how we make ourselves fiscally responsible, some of the measures, there are many others, by the way. That's just one report that we use from the state auditor. There are many other checks and balances within our district, general accounting principles in terms of our checks and balances. So we do want to skip to salaries, because that's an important piece in what we do with this. So understand that for fiscal year 22-23, that's this year, so FY23, there is a total of $16,954,083 budgeted towards salaries. So some of that's from the general fund, 14 million, some of it's from grants. So that number will fluctuate. Obviously, on the grant side, if the grant runs out, we no longer have that money. So that'll fluctuate from year to year, as will the others, but the grant is one that's really flexible. So just as a kind of a visual of what that looks like over the last 9 years, you can see that what our salary budget over the last 9 years looks like with our FY23 there at the end. One of the questions we get often, right, is how do we compare with other school districts? How do you compare to them? So I want to make a point on this very clearly. The numbers that we're going to talk about here are based on last year, FY22. We do consult with home consulting services that do salary surveys across the district or across our area districts. And they're the ones who produce this. The FY23 salary numbers don't get collected until January. So we're always kind of a year behind. So when I say that, and it'll make sense in a second a lot more. But before I get to that, it is important to know that we do use the home consulting services. Please understand that if we are going to make decisions, business decisions on salary comparisons, that you can't do that internally. We have to do the third party, otherwise you're in violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act. So when we make those decisions, we produce numbers, it's from this third party. It's not from an internal piece. So I could go to websites and I could look at, oh, I see this salary's here and this salary's there. We can get those from our side. We look at it. We can't make the decisions on the business based on that. So we do use the own consulting. And so the summarized results for certified teachers and administrators, again, I'm going to emphasize it again, this is last year. Now why is that important? Because it doesn't take into consideration the raise that was this year. So once we get those numbers raised for this year, this will look different. Okay? But in summary, there are three kind of benchmark spots. So teacher certified is the first one. You can see that last year, there are minimum salaries, so just entering into the profession, we were 6.8% below the mean of the schools that reported. Okay? If you start to go to the midpoint, and for this report that was generated for us, the midpoint would be somebody with a master's degree and be here 10 years, or have 10 years experience, not necessarily here for 10 years. Okay? At that point, we were plus 1.1% above the mean. And at the end being a master's plus 40 additional credits, step 23, we were plus 7.1% above the mean. So what this tells us is that the longer you're in Woodland Park, the better it gets for you financially. It does not paint the picture that we can't do more. We obviously continue to look for that. But as you're here, you can see that is better for you. A lot of that's because of our current pay structure. A lot of districts that are represented here are in that typical cascading salary and step and credit kind of thing. Where number of years you get $1,000, you get 10 credits, you get another $1,000, and just kind of cascades down. Those issues, with the issue we found with those particular scales, our pay scales, is that well, we call it getting frozen or just capped out. So there's, if I'm here in those models, you might be at 20 years, and that's as far as it goes on the salary schedule. So if you work 21, 22, 23, 24, you only get what that bottom is. You don't go on. Our salary schedule is different in that we do not have the caps. We have people, when we hire people to fit this piece, then they become their own cell, and then every time we add a percent or a flat rate, it gets added right to their cell, not a salary scale. So if you're here 30 years, you're going to get the 30 years worth of that, whatever that percent or whatever that may be. So that's changed that quite a bit in our favor. That's part of the reason why we're seeing some of this. Because obviously, as you get towards the top of the scale and you get a 3% or a 5% or an 8.5%, that's larger than the one step that you might get on a typical cascading model, just by virtue of growth. Okay. Administrators, you can see the salary minimum right now last year. Administrators minus 22.3%, below the mean. Midpoint minus 21%, and at the maximum minus 16.7%. A lot of red there, but again, the same thing you can see. As you're here, you get to, that gap is closing. So you're making more as you go. We don't have classified staff up there in this form, simply because on the own consulting firm, we do get those numbers. However, every school district defines the classified staff differently, so it's never title for title, right? An example that I would use, in our system, we have a head custodian, a building head custodian. In another district that maybe reported on this, they would have a head custodian and then maybe a building supervisor that does some of the same things, but maybe not exactly the same. So it's not title for title, so we can't really put that together in a format like this. But what we can tell you is that the minimum wage, again, this is last year, the minimum wage for all classified staff runs between $13.32 to $26.19 an hour. It's all of our positions are above Colorado minimum wage. Important note on this, in January, Colorado state minimum wage is going up to, I believe, $13.52. I believe is the number. Again, so you look at that and go, well, we're going to be below the minimum wage. Remember, this is last year. This year, our starting point is $14.32, so we'll still be above the Colorado minimum wage. So another way to look at our salaries across the district, and this is what we often do, is to look at the average effective salary increases. What pool of our job candidates or pool of our job families are getting an effective raise? So you may give a 10% raise, as an example. Let's say we do 10% across the board, but the effective raise may be higher or at least that, right? Because again, 10% at somebody at the top of the scale is going to be larger than 10% of somebody at the bottom of the scale, because we do a flat percent, that naturally grows. So the people, as you move down and get you're here longer, okay, that effective salary increase would be greater than 10%. All right, so we look at that, and we do that. We do our salaries through the meet and confer. We've all talked about that. So the average effective salary increase for returning staff, is as follows. So you can see our classified staff in fiscal year 20, their effective average is 7.6. FY21, we all know what happened that year, so it's frozen. The effective, when you give everybody 0, the effective increase is, well, 0. So, FY22, you can see they were at 9%, and then this last year we did calculate it with that 8.5% plus the effective raise across the board. Average effective raise increase was 12.5%. And you can see each one of those. So certified staff we're 5.8%, 0, 3.5, 3.45%, 10.72%. And you can see what that does for administrators too. 3.3 to 8.5. Okay. Along with our salaries, there's obviously benefits that go with that. We need to make sure that we are keeping up with the benefits. And so for fiscal year 23, there is $1,651,811 budgeted in the general fund and the grant funds. We combine them in this one. Like to date, as of, well, I don't know about today because we hired a couple people just now. So when I wrote that date, as of that date when this was written on Monday, I think, 195 employees were taking part in our Kaiser Permanente health benefits. 167 were taking place in our Delta dental benefits. So what does that look like over the past 9 years? So I'm going to anticipate a question here, okay, and that is, why is this year, FY23, dramatically lower than the other years? Or why did it drop? Here's the reason. Prior to this fiscal year, all of the benefits were budgeted on a one-to-one basis. So we had 300 employees. We budgeted 300 employees that would take the insurance benefits. What we found over the course of that time is that we never had 100% of our employees take benefits. We had a much lower, about 70%, 72%. So on the budget this year, we didn't do position for position. We did 72%. Okay? So this number is about taking into account about 72% of our employees accessing the benefits. So where did this other money go? It helped that 8.5% that we gave everybody this year. Just want a quick summary of benefits so you know. Our health insurance is Kaiser Permanente. The district provides $700 basically per month towards the cost of the premiums. That's for a single employee. There's obviously different levels of plans, including a high deductible health plan, in which in this case the district would contribute $45. Before I move on to the next one, it's important to note that this is our last year of our contract with Kaiser. So we would have to, there's another renewal date coming up. In the midst of that, our insurance brokers retired. So we just went out to RFP for a new insurance broker. We'll have a new insurance broker in place by probably mid-December, early January. They will then go out and begin to do the request for who wants to pick us up for insurance. It may well stay with Kaiser. It may switch to Cigna or Rocky Mountain. I don't know.
When do we do that vote, though?
When do we do what?
When would we do like a vote for that? Is that next year?
No, so the insurance committee, after we get the insurance broker in, our insurance committee, which is representative of all the staff at different levels, we will come in and our insurance brokers in May, April, May, will be, have all the different plans that we select. The insurance committee then, we go back and forth on what's the best plan, what's the best rate, what do we have for that. Then we decide and sign the contract May, June, for it to go into effect July 1.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Delta insurance, $38 per month towards the cost of those premiums. Just gonna go through this fast. $1.50, every employee that is with us gets the $15,000 policy that's paid. They don't pay anything for that. Disability insurance, the district pays the full premiums for employees working a minimum of half-time. So we pay that, and it's a disability. Vision, we do have a vision, which is VSP. This is a voluntary one. So this is anybody, even if you decline the other insurances, you could voluntarily do this one, nor are you required to do this in and of itself. So it's not part of the package per se, but it is an option. In this case, the employee pays the full cost of the premiums. We offer a variety, well, we don't offer. Other insurance companies offer a variety of different tax sheltering annuities. And I emphasize that because we do not endorse any one of the company's plans. We're not financial people. So we don't have that. We vet them and they can offer, it's again, a choice. Cobra, if you're familiar with Cobra, when one loses a job that has health insurance benefits, there's federal laws about businesses, schools, offering an opportunity for the coverage to continue. We do follow that Cobra law, of course, and the employee then would pay the full amount of that health coverage, but they are able to keep their health coverage up to, in most cases, 18 months after employment ends. We also, the school district pays the full amount for the contracted services of a EAP, or an employee assistance program. Currently we use CompPsych. This would be opportunities for, could be mental health, so maybe more of our employees need some help locating some mental health. They get that, they get some free sessions out of that. Could be lawyer, law advice, it could be all kinds of stuff in whatever this would be. That is a service that's provided to our employees. And of course, we know that when you work for a government entity like us in the school district, we belong to PARA. Important note here that the district contributes 21.4% of the employee salary, and the employee contribution is 11%. I heard today, now it's not set in stone because the legislature hasn't met yet, but what we heard today is that there is not going to be an increase in that next year. So that's great, because from a budget standpoint, obviously, 24% of the salary budget's a lot. But from an employee standpoint, it's hard when the cost of everything's going up, and if you're contributing more to your own, that it was 10.5%, I believe, last year, that's really a pay cut. And so it was good news to hear that there's no plans for that, but again, knock on whatever this is. And then finally, we do have, as another benefit in our school district, is the retirement incentive program. So this is a full-time employee who has been employed by the district for 15 years of continuous service, can qualify for participation in the retirement incentive program. Currently, if somebody decided that, currently there are 35 certified employees eligible for this program. That doesn't mean that 35 people are going to run out of here. It just means that 35 people have been here for 15 years, continuously. And then currently there are 26 classified employees.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions? Yeah.
Tell the money for salary and benefits, when I'm looking at the pie chart, is that the blue instructional?
It's for salaries and benefits, it's a component of all of those pieces. I will include that. It's coded, let me go back to that. I'll talk to that a little bit. So you're talking about, oh, it's not up there anymore. Well, that's my screensaver. I have no idea where that is.
Elephant Rock.
You're talking about that chart that was with the 40% was the blue and then a whole bunch of other little categories. So for example, if I look at student support services like maybe our counselors or whatever, that's the percent of our budget, but in that percent are included their salary.
Oh, okay.
So it's just all encompassing.
So then it's instructional certified staff?
Instructional or
certified staff?
Instructional is any piece that's actively or directly impacting the classroom. So supplies, equipment, could be this obviously salaries. It's whatever is directly going to the instructional program.
And then how can I get information, Del, about which employees or salaries are currently being paid by grants? Because it looks like it's more than 10% of our salaries are being paid through grants.
Yeah, we can, I can get you that number. Absolutely. It's also, you can dig through it on the budget, on the financial transparency, because if you go to the grant piece, it's actually broke out by code. It doesn't say how many there are, it says the total amount, but I'd be happy to find that number for you.
Great.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Got to have you do that more often.
Really?
No. All right, on to Roman numeral 7B, update from board committee on research of potential actions for hiring superintendent position. And that was the subcommittee of Mr. Illingworth and Mrs. Cassie Kimball.
Can we go ahead and start? Okay, so I sent this summary, but I want to go ahead and read it. On Wednesday, November 2nd, at 8 a.m., David Illingworth II and myself met with Tina Cassins and Del Garrett, as well as Kelly David, and to discuss previous processes that were used during the superintendent searches. Kelly Hayden provided a packet of what the district has used in previous searches, along with a timeline, including a hiring flow chart, sample dates, superintendent application, superintendent vacancy notice, our mission statement for beliefs, district vision, information about the community, qualifications, application process, and the, I repeated that, sorry guys. During our discussion, there is, we talked about like the sweet spot of the scheduling and what a superintendent search would look like, those dates, and what those approximately are. Anywhere in December 17th, 24th, though the application can be extended through February, March, and April, which is usually when another superintendent might be leaving the district from another hire, and which isn't always necessary, but it is something that we discussed. There are numerous processes we could choose from, whether it's a facilitator using case or just posting an application and working together. If finalists are chosen, there could be 3 interview committees, or from parents, community members, administration, district. Administration agreed that having a board member or 2 present during these committees is a preferred strategy. It is also important to note that the DAC committee was brought up as another committee to interview finalists, and that the DAC must be included. The CDE has a code for criminal background checks, so that was talked about for hiring a new superintendent. The Board of Education will need to update the qualifications application process. For instance, the BOE may require a superintendent's license, or are we looking for Board of Ed, change agent, CEO, business background. Kelly even will update dates, numbers, and district information in the forms prior to the posting of the application. We later met with Brad Miller, our attorney, provided him the documents with research to streamline hiring process with each person we concluded. We are also interested in looking at interim superintendent. So that concludes my summary of that.
And then Brad did take the documents that that we provided, that in turn that were provided to us from Ms. Haven, and he did send that to the board. I think it was last Friday, and they're largely unchanged from what was used, I think, over the last 2 hiring processes for superintendents at Woodland Park. The timeline is really where there was any real change. Like, for instance, just to give you an example, we added in that the school has a charter school when it talks about like the description of the district and things like that. So that's very minor. But the timeline has been compressed essentially from a 3-month timeline into about a 2-month timeline. And that was after our discussion with Brad, and he kind of took our input and put it to paper on that. So that's what we have here, which was previously provided to. So.
And could you go over that timeline?
Sure.
Well, it's also in the packet too, so it's in the packet. It talks about posting closes for interim superintendent position December 2nd, 4 p.m. Mountain Time, November 23rd to December 7th, screening applicants and identity applicant pool. After December 7th, send regret letters, set up Google Meet phone interviews with candidate.
December 10th, board conducts Google Meet phone interviews. After December 10th, will call selected or unselected Google Meet interview candidates before the DOE meeting. December 14th, the board meeting resolution of 1 to 3 finalists approved, conduct background and reference checks on finalists. And then January 4th, we have the DAC committee was on their interview committee. And then January 11th was board interviews of finalists. And the qualifications, do you want to read those? Want to take turns?
So I have a couple questions about the time. Well, I know you guys do your presentation.
So I'm not gonna read out all the qualifications. It's what was provided before, except that we took out the requirement that the person have a superintendent license or be able to obtain one in some reasonable amount of time. That's not required by law for a superintendent or other chief executive type position. I myself am not sure quite how common that is amongst the various school districts or charter school networks or things like that. So we removed that. That's going to broaden the pool. And then I don't think there was anything else that I noticed that was any sort of major change. I think that was about it for qualifications. But you're going to see there that it's otherwise basically the same that was used in the last two processes, and it starts with excelling with communication with district holders, but it has other things about being student focused, and sound financial skills, and being straightforward and cultivating a positive and motivated workforce. I think the only other thing now I'm looking at that we took out was the last hiring thing had essay questions for applicants to do. That I think was about 5 essay questions and no more than a page each. And Cassie and I didn't think that was necessary. So. Brad, do you have anything you can add for this?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Stan. Hi, I'm Brad Miller. I'm a lawyer for the district. So we had some discussions, and what I did provide, I want to sort of clarify the bigger picture. Here's my understanding. I was asked to consider the fact that we've got strong interim leadership without clarity about duration. And so this was intended to provide a process that can either quickly clarify that or bring in an interim superintendent who would serve out the remainder of this year. The subcommittee expressed certain exigencies or priorities. We're talking about summit learning, talking about different things of that nature that needed to be addressed in this current fiscal year. And so to give your leadership clarity to go through this process, and in the process identify and express what you've been working on with Tina, which is an adoption of more clarity around your mission and vision, and incorporate all that in a quick process this winter so that in the springtime, you've got a clear path going forward, and then you would subsequently engage in a permanent superintendent search or leader search. Again, knowing that there's been some ambiguity about whether it's a superintendent or like we've got co-leaders. I apologize, I don't remember your exact titles, but I think that's the purpose served by this quicker process as I understand it.
Yeah, thank you, Brad.
Thank you. Can I ask a clarifying question? You have interim, you have Winfield, and you have a 234-day contract. So I heard a little bit different.
I'll just stay here for
Yeah, you said it could be potentially the rest of the year, but it does say 234-day contract.
Part of this is my ineptitude as a 60-year-old who doesn't work well with little boxes drawn onto documents, and I think I just overlooked something there.
2, 3, 4.
To clarify, the intent was this would be a position through the remainder of the current fiscal year, whether that continues as is or if it's somebody else, and you would have the process to make that determination.
You might want to just stay there.
Okay.
Okay.
I think that's it for me. Did you have anything else, Cassie?
No.
Okay.
You want me to go into more detail?
But is there any questions or discussion about what we've got here?
I see the last date for the board interviews and finalists is January 7th. I think we need to consider, we're coming up to the holidays and we're coming up to the Christmas break. I think it would be in the best interest of the school board to expedite, if we can, to get this position in place before we go on holiday break. So we have a leader that is coming in clean for the second semester of the school year.
Okay. And I think there is some space within this draft timeline that could be done a little bit more efficiently if we want to meet that sort of target. And I think we have a board work session scheduled right before Christmas break. It's Wednesday. Let's say is it the 21st? So I think that realistically would be the last day we could
21st.
make it like a deadline if it was going to be before the Christmas holidays. So, one thing I was thinking about with this, so the old process used like 3 different interview committees. So there could be potentially 3 different dates that a committee would be interviewing like finalists. Cassie and I really like the idea of the DAC basically filling that spot because we like the DAC and think that it represents a pretty good cross-section as it's intended to, not just of people within the community, but different viewpoints. Plus, if we could always plus that up a little bit, like make it a DAC plus committee, if we are looking at it and going, oh, we really could use this other perspective in there. So there's really no limitation for that. And one of the things I was thinking about, if you look at the timeline, you'll see that it says DAC interview committee on like on a January 4th and then a board interview on January 11th. Honestly, I think we could do those together. Have the board and the DAC president asking questions of finalists and perhaps have an executive session afterwards if there's any sort of follow-up. If an executive session is appropriate for any sort of questioning of a finalist, Brad, I'm not sure.
So we're going to take the high road, and with regard to any finalist or finalists, those will be open exchanges, except for the review of their reference materials.
Okay.
And just to make sure we're clear, I view this as a situation in which you need to have the 2-week posting period of your finalist or finalists before you can engage an individual, or in our case, individuals, to move forward. So there's a 2-week period at the end of this that is obligatory.
Okay. And that's before the interview with the DAC committee on the timeline, or is that after that interview?
It can be posted, and then the DAC interviews can ensue from there.
Okay.
They can follow.
But you kind of have to have like a 2-week break?
You have to have a 2-week posted finalist period.
Okay.
This has been well litigated and so forth. We've got to work through this. You identify anyone so let's say you get down to a pool of 3 or less. That would typically be where you get to that point where those are finalists. You might start with a pool of 7 or 8, who knows?
Okay.
And you can do those interviews as an executive session. It's actually not for personnel matters, it's for matters required to be maintained, kept confident. There's a citation for it, I promise. And you can do the broader interviews in exec session, but the finalists have to be public after they've been posted.
So for instance, then, if we were to select the December 21st work session as like an end date, then it sounds like at least 2 weeks prior, we would have to publicly post any finalists in order to meet the law.
Correct.
But within that 2-week window, so that would be December 7th. It was 2 weeks before December 21st. Within that 2-week window, you could have a meeting where the DAC is interviewing the finalists and the board is interviewing the finalists, because you're still within your 2-week period before any hiring decision is made. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and your underlying question as to whether the board and DAC interview could be combined, I believe the answer is yes.
Okay. It seems like that would be efficient.
Well, I think that it would be nice that the board work hand in hand with the district accountability committee that closely. I would like to add to it that this is also a very public, if we're going to do something like this, that the public is invited at the same time. So we have this big public conversation that everyone gets to hear. We have it in the auditorium if necessary, or we have it in a venue that will accommodate the people who want to participate in this.
Yeah, we just have to
That
check.
everything is very, very public.
Check the
Big.
availability of the auditorium.
Whatever might be available.
The other thing is that if you look at this timeline, you'll see that kind of what's built in is this idea that after the posting period is closed, there'd be sort of I guess like a first cut where the board is doing phone interviews with people, and this is prior to selecting finalists. We might not need to do that, or might have to consider going past that if we're wanting to do Sue before, if the 21st would be an end date, in which case you could simply strip that out, and we could look at the applications, and I don't know if we need to check any references or things like that, but we could just select finalists without doing a sort of first round of phone interviews, and that would save time.
Are you talking about what's on December 7th?
Yeah, it says set up Google Meet phone interviews with candidates.
Typically, what did that look like?
So when we had our discussion, they said like usually get about 20 to 25 candidates, and so I think we would set up phone calls from my understanding, and Kelly might jump in, and you would do phone interviews with them.
Well, the first thing would be is the one up above that where it's
screen that
would screen it down.
Screen it down.
Right, and then typically it was maybe 5 to 7.
5 to 7.
It just depends on the role.
Cutting out the hat.
Then you would, then what we've done is.
21 phone interviews.
No. It was probably about a 15 to 20 Google Meet, and it was kind of asking just some of the same questions, and then you can see, it's kind of a visual as well, and just have a brief conversation.
Yeah, I don't think like 5 to 7, or if it's.
Can you talk? I just can't quite hear you.
Sorry, I don't mean if it's only a few phone interviews, I'm not opposed to that. If it's like 20, I can see where you're like trying to cut time, but.
How did that work in the past, Kelly? Or how do you, if we did the phone interviews, how would that look?
Well, we would set up a Google Meet, and it was the board. We've done it 2 different ways where they've sat in different rooms because you get a lot of feedback, and everyone wanted to see the candidate. We've also done it where the candidate's face is on a large screen.
Okay. And you have let's say 5. You have all 5 consecutively, all at the same time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, usually there's maybe 10 or 15 minutes in between where you guys can take notes and.
Mr. Osterholz, this would typically be affected by Dell's office, and because that might not be available to you this time, you do need to have in your heads, what does it look like to do that? At minimum, I'd want Kelly, maybe my office, to help you highly structure those interviews so that we don't have any violations of people's rights and interests, and that there's a lot of equality in the way that those are managed. But that process is pretty important to do well. And it's not magic, but it can't be sort of ad hoc.
Thank you.
But I think if we wanted, and Brad, doing the phone interviews, that would be a public meeting.
If it's pre-finalist, the board could Oftentimes what would happen is, again, Dell's office or somebody like that would actually conduct those and do the sort of the narrowing of the group and then present to the board some sort of pre-finalist list. And that would have all been done privately. Frankly, if you've got a broader candidate pool, you might have an internal candidate within the system, for example, who it wouldn't be in their interest to apply if they thought that prior to being a finalist, that it would become known that they were a candidate. And that will be the case with other local El Paso County type of leaders who would not be interested in being known unless they were a finalist. You remember the sort of the process that Dr. Neal went through when he was candidating elsewhere, and it was very private until that very last end. We need to honor people's privacy, because if I'm a really, really good candidate, I don't want my current employer to know that I'm looking elsewhere. That's an important precept here.
Anything else from the committee?
I guess I have a couple questions. So this is a board subcommittee presentation on the research for hiring a superintendent. And yet we're talking about an interim superintendent position, and all of this conversation has been about a timeline for an interim superintendent that would be hired for the rest of the school year. And I guess I'm puzzled why we're doing this if we have two co-interim superintendents already that are, we haven't talked about performance, and this is not the place for that right now. That would be in an executive session, but so this is coming to me as a bit of a surprise on one hand, and I guess I would just ask the question, why? Why are we doing this?
We had this, did we not have this discussion at our last meeting? Why, the what, the purpose? Because part of what we were discussing at the other meetings, I understood, is not necessarily one of the topics of discussion that I wanted to ask questions about is, what are we calling this position? I'm in favor of not interim superintendent. I'm in favor of a CEO, an agent of change that would come in here. So if we're talking titles, I would engage that's a good question. But that's not certainly, I don't know if that's probably not your question.
I'm open to hear anyone else's answer to that question. Why are we doing this?
From our last meeting, I thought we talked about like the superintendent, but then we also talked about not having permanent superintendent, and that was brought up. And then David, President Rushrold, and Vice President Illingworth both talked about that change agent going back and forth and what that looked like at the end of the meeting. So.
And if you recall, Chris, one of the things we talked about at the last meeting was that if we were going to explore bringing in someone other than the team that's currently in place, this is the time. This is the window where you have to do it.
Because
this is the hiring season.
Well, hiring season is actually in February for superintendent. So we're not actually talking about hiring a superintendent. We're talking about hiring a change agent or an interim superintendent prior to the hiring cycle for superintendents. So again, my question is, why are we doing that? Can someone please help me understand?
I can help. So I met with this subcommittee right on the heels of a prior meeting, and they communicated to me in ways that I'm not hearing right now, but I'll try to give that clarity. There was a board work session, a retreat, so to speak, offsite at the library, in which there was a lot of energy generated. And a theme arose that you needed to adopt a mission and vision that had greater clarity, and then not to sacrifice a year or another year of student success and achievement in sort of just paddling, but to look ahead and establish that vision and declare it and move towards it. And so what David said to me, and specifically out of the meeting that you had, and Mr. Rusterholz did as well to me separately, is that this is a mission to make sure you don't lose this year to accomplish the things that you need to get done, and whether that means the current candidates express and adopt a vision rather than maintaining where you're going, to start to move towards where you're headed. And that's what was given to me, clarity, and so that's why I suggested this process.
And that vision and mission has not been finalized. And yet what has been given to the co-superintendent, the interim superintendents, is a list of goals where we actually weighed in on prioritizing those goals for this 2022-2023 school year, that I am fully confident that they are working towards the accomplishment of those specific goals. That doesn't sound like paddling. That sounds like moving forward based on the input of this board as of 2 weeks ago. So again, I'm not seeing the logic in it.
I believe I'm reading the minutes for the October 26, 2022 board meeting, and on the bottom of one of the pages, it says the next steps with the superintendent position. Discussion took place about possibly bringing in an interim for the 23-24 year without a long-term contract, since there is an upcoming election next fall with 3 board member seats up for re-election, considering hiring a business CEO to partner with our co-interim superintendents for short-term issues, a change agent. Mrs. Cassins encouraged the board to provide some input vehicles for stakeholders, since this is the largest decision of the district. After the discussion, motion, Illingworth, second Kimbrell, to create a subcommittee to Board of Education Directors, David Illingworth II and Cassie Kimbrough, to research potential actions along with executive staff for the hiring of the superintendent position. Motion carried, voting aye. Austin, Illingworth, Kimbrough, Patterson, and Rusterholz. So it has been discussed.
And the key word is superintendent. The key word for me was process of researching the steps towards hiring this district's superintendent.
It says CEO to partner with our interim superintendents for short-term issues.
But the vote was, could you read the vote again, please?
The motion carried by the voting aye. Austin, Illingworth.
What was the motion?
To potential actions along with executives.
It's at the top, to create a subcommittee.
Yes.
If you read that from me.
Keep going.
Do you want me to read it since I have it in front of me?
Yeah.
So it was motion Illingworth II, second Kimbrough, to create a subcommittee of 2 Board of Education directors, David Illingworth II and Cassie Kimbrough, to research potential actions along with executive staff for the hiring of the superintendent position.
To my point. So it feels incongruent based on a retreat where, while there was energy in that retreat, I would say that there was not a lot of discussion amongst the board. And so I'm just asking the question why? Because to me, it's and again, I'll pause. We don't need to get into that. I just think that the dynamic here is, again, a relatively, it feels, the optics on it for me is that it's a fairly rushed process without a lot of input from the stakeholders, which is, again, echoing Tina's point, the largest decision for the district. And so
I'm just asking the question. Why are we doing this? And I appreciate your answers. I just don't feel like I have clarity on it. It feels like there's a need for some clarity here.
After our conversation at the retreat with Bob Schaefer, I thought that there was a lot of energy to move forward. I don't know, at least for me.
Whose conversation?
Say it one more time.
You said after the conversation.
The retreat, I'm sorry.
Okay.
The retreat that we were all at, everyone here, with Bob Schaefer at the library. You know which one I'm talking
Oh,
about?
totally.
Okay.
I don't remember a lot of conversation in that meeting. I actually remember sitting for 5 hours listening to a man speak to us. That being said, the energy you had was not personally shared with me because we did not have a discussion as a board at that retreat, really.
No, we didn't. So what I was saying is that I had left that meeting with a lot of energy and excitement about moving forward.
Great.
That moving forward didn't eliminate Del and Tina or their position here. What it gave me the idea of is we need someone who will take the vision that has not yet been put down on paper and discussed, but had this idea about how do we make Woodland Park even better than what it is now? What changes can we make? What are the steps forward that need to happen? That's what was going through my mind. So, like what Mr. Schaefer said, is that sometimes it takes a person to step in to make that change. Somebody who's from outside, who can come in, who's great at organizing and leading people and has that exciting vision to take something forward to where it's never been before. It's like if you work in the same office for 10 years, you never notice that there's been a cup and a pile of mess over here in the corner for a while. So a new person comes in and they see that. So I'm telling you my motivation for wanting to move forward. Not my thoughts are that we need somebody, a business type person, who sees our parents as the customer and that will help take this great organization that we already have and take it steps into the future to satisfy those jobs like Principal Burr said, that don't even exist today, that we need to get there. We already have a team in place to make it happen. We just need someone with the excitement, the energy, the vision, and the experience to move it forward to that next step. That was what left me excited about that meeting. And that's why I think the time is now to start doing that.
Can I add?
Rushed? I don't think it's rushed.
It was discussed in the subcommittee where there are people that, like schools hire that are change agents to come in to do some of that stuff. And we actually have some people that are in the district now that have done those positions too. And so I thought that was really interesting. So I'm not going to mention any names, but just that there are people that even work here in our district that have done that at different schools and such. It's very interesting.
And we're not eliminating anyone from the Woodland Park School District, employees or otherwise, to apply for the position as well. Everyone's welcome to apply. But I feel the need to go forward. We need to go forward. We need, Tina and Dal weren't hired for the positions they're in there. They were appointed. And I think for clarity, they need to, they had full-time jobs of their own. I think it's our duty to either, if they want to apply, they can apply, but to go back to originally what they were hired to do and not put the extra burden on them.
Any other discussion on this, the why? Does that satisfy at all?
It brings more clarity, thank you.
So if, do you want to talk more about the timeline, David? I mean, do you also feel like Sue does about seeing if it could be done before the Christmas break?
I would be open to conversation about it. I'm certainly not opposed to it at all. No, it's, as long as the proper steps are done, as long as we have community involvement, community input, that the DAC is involved, deeply involved in this as an advisory, I would be open to any reasonable timeline, yeah.
Well, I think we would have to, if you look at the timeline,
So what are you suggesting in that? Is that where you're about to go?
right, like
Okay.
how it could be adjusted if we wanted to do that. So if you take December 21st as this end date, and we already have a work session scheduled then you would need to do no later than December 7th. That would be when you'd announce the finalists to have your 2-week period. And we could schedule in that time frame a meeting that would be the DAC and the board to interview finalists publicly. We could also have before the 21st another like a town hall, David, just basically to hear public comment on it after the interviews have been done. And then what you could do is where it says December 2nd would be the closing of the application period. You could move that up a little bit to like November 29th, which is I think that's Tuesday. And that way, like assuming this were to post tomorrow, that's a 20-day open period. And then you have between the 29th and December 7th to have any sort of private, winnowing of applications and phone calls with with sort of the not yet finalists. So you'd still have more than a week to do that. So I think it could be done in that fashion. You just have to basically make December 7th the public announcing of any finalists. So
December 7th would be.
right. You'd have to have a public meeting no later than the 7th where the board could announce finalists to hit our December 21st last scheduled work session for the year.
I understand the scheduling. Help me understand this. I'm not opposed to abbreviating the process, as long as it's not compromised. Maybe Brad can help with this as well. I need to know, why is it important to abbreviate the process?
Well, I think that we don't have that long a time. And so look at it two ways. If our esteemed co-interims were to come out of that process as either continuing as co-interims or one as an interim, I think you need an extended process for either Del or Tina. Or maybe some of our other known leaders at either like the high school or Merritt Academy. But then if you are bringing in an outsider who's probably like from the El Paso and Colorado Springs community, then that person probably would need more time. And so they'd have that sort of that holiday break to get more familiar with some of the like details and things like that, because we're going to be coming into the budgeting as well as, determinations going into next year about like curriculum or use of facilities and things like that. So that would allow an outsider to have more time on ground to handle the challenges and move forward with the values that we've been working on. And I think, the values are on the agenda tonight. We've been going over them for like a couple months now. So that's definitely value gained if we can do it before the Christmas break.
What are your thoughts, Cassie?
Hold on, I'm still going through the scheduling in my head too. November 23rd is the district's closed, we won't have a work session. Are we gonna do the 30th for a work session then?
Well, I was thinking with the amount of stuff that we have and just, as we're having this conversation,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about having asking about a meeting next Wednesday.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's sort of what I'm like, sort of wondering, like, how often are we gonna meet, when are we gonna meet, and so my.
Much is necessary.
Well, and
I
I'm,
believe we have the DAC next Wednesday.
We have DAC back.
DAC meeting.
16th.
okay, yeah, so that's next Wednesday. And then the district is off from the 21st to the 25th. Then we come back, so maybe, I guess we could discuss maybe Thursday.
Do it Tuesday or Thursday.
Yeah, we've done Tuesdays or Thursdays before, I don't know.
I didn't hear the last part of what you're saying. You're looking at.
I said that, we could also do Tuesdays or Thursdays.
Oh, I have no,
Wednesday.
whatever.
Yeah, so I think we would
So
need
I won't be here the
more
23rd.
often. To complete a shorter deadline, I would like to meet more often.
I agree with you.
Like if that's what we were gonna do, I would want to meet a lot more. And I also agree with having community output, or input as far as like just having a, town hall type of thing, public comment, and so. Feedback, questionnaires, whatever we need to do to get community engagement.
I would throw out for people to consider what your Decembers are like. Around here, December is like, you're talking about the auditorium. We have concerts.
Right.
So I will remind you also, speaking for the DAC, because you're asking the DAC to be available. I would just caution that December is a already very full month.
It is full. Parties and.
So I'll go ahead and raise this. I actually want to move to table any action on this until the board provides opportunity for stakeholder feedback. The board this evening set a tone related to the 23-24 calendar to table that, providing stakeholder feedback for the calendar for 23 or for 24, 25 or whatever that year was, 23, 24. This feels much larger, in my opinion, at many levels. And I hear a lot about community input, public involvement. I would like to ask this board, and I would like to move that we table this, any action on setting this in motion until we provide an opportunity for stakeholder feedback specifically related to this decision. It's the largest decision that we'll be making probably until the end of the year, at least. So I would move that we table any action on this until we provide stakeholder feedback related to what this discussion has been about.
Can I ask you, what would stakeholder feedback look like to you?
To the schedule?
Say it again?
Is it to the schedule?
Not to the
then?
schedule, to the overarching concept. So it's broad, and I don't know what it would look like. How do we provide opportunity for stakeholder feedback? We provide
Feedback in regard to what? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but in regard to what exactly?
regard to hiring an interim superintendent to carry on through the rest of this year compared to the hiring of a superintendent in February who will take the leadership of this school district. That's a big decision that this board would, I believe, benefit from input from the community at large. And how that opportunity is provided for the stakeholders, that can be decided. This is why I want to push pause and ask that we table any action so that we can continue with that tone that was set and provide opportunity for stakeholder feedback, input. I think it's important. It's essential.
I still don't have clarity on exactly what you mean. How do you want to get feedback?
They can write us letters. We can provide an opportunity. Tina and Dell can help us figure out a way. What's the best way for us as a board? We've done this before. When we were actually looking for a superintendent a couple years ago, we provided an opportunity of what the community wanted in a superintendent. This is very similar. We can be asking the community, what do you want related to, would you prefer to see us hire an interim to carry us through to this next year? Would you prefer that we hire a superintendent that's going to carry us on into the future of our district? I just think that those types of inputs will really help inform and broaden our scope. And I want to move that we table any action on this until we have provided an opportunity.
So is it the
stakeholder input?
Is it the interim part? If it was superintendent, would that be a stumbling block?
No, we do the same thing for the superintendent.
Okay.
Provide opportunity for stakeholder input. Hear from the community.
Could that happen within the 20 days from November 10th to the 29th, the opening period? Could we consider that time as public feedback? That's 20 days to get it out, to how the public, the public was here at the last meeting. They heard us discuss everything we wanted to discuss. I haven't gotten one email and concerns. Would the committee be informed? We are shortening the time, but we're not eliminating any of the steps that you're talking about.
Unless the key overwhelming expression from the community is don't hire an interim, hire a superintendent. That changes the playing field. So what your 20-day window assumes is that we're moving forward, where the community has not had an opportunity to weigh in on whether they perceive what's best in their interests, their students' interests, this community's interests. That's even the best course of action. And so just to reflect back, so much of what has been discussed in the ways of parent partnership, parent direction, parent orientation, this feels like there has been no parent input for this seismic decision, and I would like to suggest that we provide that an opportunity for that input.
Okay, well, I mean, Chris has made a motion.
I have.
That's right. And to table it, do you want to say, you don't want to say the extent of the time, you just want to say table it, period?
It could be a week.
Or would you mind restating?
I move to table this action item until the board provides opportunity for stakeholder feedback, specifically related to the decision to hire an interim superintendent for the remainder of the 22-23 school year.
Well, I still have a question of discussion, now that I know that's on the table. Are we, all committee members, are we talking about interim, or are we talking about superintendent? Are we talking about chief executive officer? What exactly are we talking about, and does it make a difference? Evidently, it makes a difference.
The current plan is for an interim that would only go through the end of the year. So not a permanent, like with a multi-year contract. Whether it's called interim superintendent or interim chief executive officer, I don't think is materially relevant to Chris's motion. So.
Go ahead. Were you going to Sue?
I was gonna ask you and then ask if Mr. Miller would weigh in.
Well, on top of that, we discussed, having something that wasn't so permanent as far as the contract. I think that's, our district has seen that at the last meeting. We brought that up on numerous occasions that you guys, we've seen this trend, and I think we were just talking about finishing something off for the end of the year, whether it's someone that applies in our district or not, so. That's all I was saying.
So as I understand, this is the traditional timeline and when it starts and when it ends. Is that correct, Tina?
No. Traditionally, what would happen is that the hiring season for a superintendent typically opens mid to late December, is open for about a month, and then the next couple of months are spent in the hiring process, hiring someone for the next year. So typically, the hiring season's in that, third quarter of the school year, and you're hiring a superintendent that will launch in the following school year. Because if people are, a lot of people are in contracts that they have jobs. You know what I mean? They're in a current contract. So anyone that steps in mid-year would either need to break that contract or not be in a current contract with the school. So typically you're hired for the next school year.
But in our situation, we are not in a typical situation. We're not. We're not in the ideal situation right now. I feel we need to go forward. So
when would you hire for the 23-24 school year?
But that would just depend on several things. That would depend on whether this proposal met with success. That would depend on who came in and how their work was, or if it was, you two or one of you two. What the feeling was, going forward with that too. So I think there's a lot of variables with that. And like you said, that process can go into March, but then there's that second stage, where the dominoes fall and spots open up and things like that. If we did this proposal here and we were thrilled with it, there is nothing that requires us to nonetheless hire somebody by December 21st. We could do this process and say, you know what, actually, this does feel rushed, or this doesn't feel sufficient, and so let's change the plan and let's do something a little different. Let's go into January or February or something like that. So,
Mr. Miller, would you like to weigh in on that?
Yeah, well, a few things. Board, it's a good political question as to what you look like in terms of gathering community input, but frankly, it's what elections are about. It's why the choice was made when you were selected and elected to be on this board that gave you the authority to make the decision. So whatever process you use, as long as it's transparent, you are a republic, not a democracy. You're not looking for a vote of your constituents as to who you select or what type of role you define. That is up to you. That's a board decision ultimately. What stakeholder input you use to get there, that's a question I can't answer. That's your question. But nothing's obligatory other than the DAC involvement in the interview process, you defining and promoting the position. Those are the sort of quintessential aspects of this. And you didn't go through a process to get to where you are right now. So to Sue's point earlier, having a process now, even to just vindicate and sort of make permanent the decision that you've made coming into this fall in a transition time in the summer makes sense to me. This isn't abrupt, Mr. Austin. I don't think it's abrupt or surprising. I think it's actually thoughtful and deliberative as I understand it. I think you've had a couple of meetings talking about this prior to me coming tonight. So I would suggest separately that David's proposed process of getting something where Santa delivers before Christmas is maybe a little bit aggressive, unless you were to host by, let's say, a meeting next week. I think if you had a second meeting next week where you gathered together and with the intent of designing this process, you might be able to do that. But I think it's ambitious to think about that right now. So if I was going to suggest any action to you, it would be to have a meeting next week where you codify what you're doing and give everybody an opportunity to look at what those documents look like and have input into them.
Thank you. I think that if we took your suggestion, let's say next Tuesday evening, if that's available.
You could also meet with the DAC.
Oh, I was trying to hear, where was that noise coming from? Hello? Say it again.
You could also meet with the DAC. The DAC meets
On
next
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
We could have our meeting to codify, as Mr. Miller said.
As they could have input.
What are your thoughts on that? So we still have a motion on the table, so I'm just trying to clarify how and kind of come to how I want to vote.
Yeah, so it actually.
You don't have a
lines
second
up.
to that motion, by the way.
You don't.
No, not yet.
It lines up with, let's wait a week, let's meet with the DAC, let's give an opportunity for the documents to be public, and that provides an opportunity for input from the stakeholders as well, that they would have an opportunity within this week to write letters to the board, to weigh in on this if they so choose. Again, providing that opportunity. That's what I'm asking, that we table this so that in a week it can be more codified. It can involve the DAC. It can involve some stakeholder input as well. I don't think it derails this at all. I just think that it fills it in a bit more, and it provides just enough of a tap on the brakes so that this process can be honored in a way that politically, and I think more than politically, I think relationally, provides opportunity for input. And so I don't hear us saying different things. What I am hearing is that this could be picked back up in a week, and it could involve the DAC. And it could also provide opportunity for. So my motion was
Would
to
you
table it.
Table it for a week?
Yeah, that's what I said. It could just be for a week. I mean, it just could be, let's provide opportunity for feedback.
What are your thoughts, Cassie?
That's what I'm thinking. I'll let you know.
I think we could do that though, and Cassie, you and I could, sort of refine this like timeline a little bit.
I would like to
in light of
look
the
at it.
discussion from tonight.
Yeah, I would like to look at the timeline now, because I was pulling up the district calendar, I was looking at it, looking at my schedule, and I think you're right, we need to look at that. So, and I would be open to tabling it as well until next week.
I'm glad to meet with the subcommittee to just iron this out if you like, and maybe however you want to do that.
Then as part of this, we could get this to the DAC. Would we want to have a board meeting on Tuesday and then meet with the DAC as a board on Wednesday,
I
or?
would think just meet with the DAC on Wednesday, and it'd be a board meeting, joint DAC meeting, and they can be provided with this. I'm sure this is going to be released through Cora by tomorrow anyway. And then we can hear from them, and then we could take votes and have further discussion.
And then Tina and Del, we can get this out publicly as well. I mean, with Lynn, so that everyone knows about it.
Save Logan some Cora work.
All right. So would you like to change your motion or more specific about next
Same.
week and DAC or anything?
It's the same.
All right, is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Roll call,
Austin?
Can you make sure that you're clear on what the motion is? Because this
please.
motion doesn't say anything about next week.
No, it doesn't. I mean, we could definitely
Thank you.
add that to the motion. So I move to table this action item until next week, when this board can reconvene along with the District Accountability Committee and provide opportunity for stakeholder feedback.
I would second that.
All right.
Roll call?
Austin?
Aye.
Illingworth?
Aye.
Kimbrell?
Aye.
Patterson?
Aye.
Rusterholz?
Aye. Thank you.
See, that helped me a lot.
All right.
So to clarify,
Please do.
do you want the information that was in the board packets posted to our website? Do you want to clean it up first? Do you want us, I mean, because I heard that alluded to and I didn't want to like do that and then.
Yeah, there was a 234 number in there and.
Yeah.
We could clean it up first, because we're basically talking about a more accelerated timeline than what's current.
And also, the only thing that might need to be cleaned up is talking to Brad, where Tina pointed out, it said 230 day, or 234 days.
234.
So that's something that we need to edit. From my notes, so.
That's the proposal. Okay.
So you're going to clean it up and then get it to Tina?
Yeah.
Thank you. Great.
We'll post it to the website and release it to the DAC. And that just took care of the DAC agenda next week.
All right. Next on our agenda is our mission is we're on Roman numeral 7B. 7C, update from board committee on draft purpose and core value language. So Sue and I met with Tina and Karen the week after with the Wednesday morning, and we met about 8 o'clock and we went over all of the different buckets of Post-it cards, and I would just want to thank Tina and Karen so much for that. I had never done that method before until I was part of this board, and it really does help clarify, for me anyway, that the different words and phrases that can be organized and put together. So I do want to thank you for helping us work through that. That was very, very good. So we came up with some original, at that meeting that morning, Sue and I were there. We came up with some general statements about what our mission or purpose statement was going to be, and then followed with some 5 or 6 core beliefs that were important about what Woodland Park School District is. So after that, on last Saturday, Sue and I met together, and we were there for a couple hours drinking coffee and finally got to work. No, only kidding. But so Sue had some some good things that she wanted to put into this. She also brought our core beliefs, and we have a copy in the book in our board packet of the mission statement, and then handed out separately were our core beliefs we believe in. So Sue, would you like to?
I don't think she handed these out.
Oh, okay. Okay, so what we came up with, these are the words from the buckets, from our Post-it notes that we all put up there, that I sent out. We organized it, and it's 2 long run-on sentences, but anyway. Woodland Park School District exists to establish a common foundation of knowledge that cultivates educated citizens who appreciate and contribute to our great American Republic, as defined in the Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution. Through a rigorous culture of achievement and an ethical code of conduct, students will develop personal discipline, courage, and drive, with a willingness to work respectfully with others and be equipped to be successful members of a uniquely American society. I know it's a mouthful. So that's what pulling all those things together pretty much came up with. And it developed a little bit from the time that we had met with Tina and Karen. But, I mean, yeah. So, any comments?
Sounds good.
So you're saying that this developed a little bit from your time with Tina and Karen?
A lot. No. I'm not sure what your question is.
I'm just asking because, yeah, it's a bit of a departure. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad. It's just, it's not quite what I recall in the buckets. There are some things that are, I wonder if the core beliefs, if it would be helpful to read these.
Sure. You want me to read it too?
Yeah.
Okay. Core beliefs. We believe in 1, district philosophies that align with parental choice and build systems oriented to parental expectations and values, and acknowledge parents as the primary educators of their children. 2, we believe in soliciting and collaborating with parents, staff, teachers, students, and community to be informed by our action, or to inform our actions or direction. That was part of what we wanted to discuss as direction, which value the merit of each unique student. 3, offering a variety of programs that provide content-rich curriculum and extracurricular activities. 4, developing professional educators that engage and inspire students through positive ethical leadership. 5, continuous improvements of our district programs, processes, and academic results. 6, the future success of our community, state, and nation depend on an educated citizen who understands the Constitution as well, the United States Constitution, as well as the Colorado State Constitution, and can make rational life political choices. I don't know, was that our final?
Yeah, read the definition of political.
Okay, I just didn't.
No, I added that.
Okay.
That is because you took my draft. That was not in our original.
Okay.
I added that.
Okay. What is the edit? What was the last one that we had? I'd have to look it up.
It was without that last statement.
Okay.
That's all.
Thanks. That sounds more reminiscent of the buckets. Thanks.
Any other conversation about it?
I like the core beliefs. I think that it sounds like in number 2, you wanted some discussion on, should it end with actions or end with direction? Should it include the phrase, which value the merit of each unique student?
Yes.
Okay.
We did want input on that.
And which word do you want?
I was looking at number 2 and there's
could not.
some alternatives.
It's right here, sorry.
I think you should add something about unique student, because there was a bucket about individualism and uniqueness, and so I like the word unique because we spent the last 2 months having a bucket talking about uniqueness and individualism, so I would add that. So.
Okay. I like actions there though.
Yeah, I like action versus direction. Like action.
And then, and Sue, so you're saying that the last one, the word, so it says make rational life political choices. You said the definition of political, what definition were you using there?
Definition of political. Political, relating to the government or the public affairs of a country. Ideas or strategies. Just active in civil service or civil government or civil, what the country is.
So what I might suggest there is change it to, how about make rational choices in their private lives and public role? Does that kind of capture versus, I think, without having to have the definition of political in there, what do you think of that?
Private life, and yeah, I like that.
Repeat that again.
So it would end with can make rational choices in their private lives and public role, something like that.
I'd like to read, though. I know it was my idea to add defined in the Declaration of Independence in the Constitution. I'd like to read some research that I did. In my belief, the Declaration of Independence, America's birth certificate, and the United States Constitution are two documents that are too important to be implied. As a member of the subcommittee for the board mission statement at last Monday's meeting with Tina and Karen and Director Rusterholz, I suggested that we included the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States within the wording of our statement. I was advised that this was implied within the sentence of American Republic. I respectfully but strongly disagree. To enable me to speak before you today, I took an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States as well as the Colorado State Constitution, as required by Colorado Revised Statute 22-31-125, which states, "The director will faithfully perform the duties of the office as required by law and will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Colorado and the laws made pursuant thereto." In addition, Colorado Revised Statute 22-61-103 requires teachers to take the oath, the teacher's oath, to solemnly swear that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Colorado, and I will faithfully perform the duties of the position upon which I am about to enter. If law requires a board of directors as well as educators to uphold the Constitution of the United States as well as the Colorado State Constitution, then it is our duty to students for it to be written within our board end statement. It has been almost 12 months since being sworn in after the election. What these past 12 months of experience have taught me as an elected representative is the vital importance that this Board of Education know, understand, and adhere to the legal and regulatory authority granted to it by the Colorado State Constitution and the Colorado Revised Statutes, to establish policy for the board district and to provide oversight for the education of the Woodland Park children. We look to the Colorado Revised Statutes at almost every Board of Education meeting to keep us within the law, ensuring we act in accordance with the defined roles, responsibilities, and requirements placed upon each member of this Board of Education. I can say this because this board has experience going through months of a court case filed against us for accusations for not following the Colorado Revised Statutes. However, in the end, the judge's ruling was in this board's favor. In my humble opinion, I think it's important as a Board of Education to revisit the reason why the teacher's oath was enacted back in the 1920s and still continues today. Many people are concerned about the possibility of subversive elements within the government, including public schools. Our most current CRS 22-61-103 from the 2021 regular session noted the state has a vital concern and possible advocacy by teachers to forceful overthrow of government, and I believe recent events prove this to be an issue, and that we, as a Board of Education, must address, especially if the legislature is. And now today we see these subversive elements with the CRT and the 1619 project. This solidifies why two important documents must be written into the Woodland Park School District mission statement. As Director Rusterholz and I discussed with Tina and Karen at the subcommittee meeting, much of the verbiage listed within our proposed board mission / core value statement that resulted from 2 months of heartfelt discussions from all 5 Board of Education members is much like other schools throughout the nation with similar views. Much of the same verbiage is used, but I don't want to just fall in line with other like-minded districts. I want to pave the way. I want to lead the pack. I want to be a local leader who is brave enough to boldly declare, not only do the Woodland Park school teachers and the Board of Education members take an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Colorado State Constitution, but promise to educate our students on the same principles that we as leaders are legally held to. And we are neighbors with many proud military families who also took the oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States. Who would be proud to send their children to a school that puts the same values at the forefront of their vision. To understand what it means to be an American means to have been taught the laws of the land, to have knowledge of and embrace self-governing citizenship as defined in the Declaration of Independence, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Board members, that is our end statement. So let us pave the way with boldness and let's lay it down in concrete. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. So I think we have two things here that we could discuss or vote on. And we have a purpose, mission statement. And so if we were to talk about that first and whether we want to adopt this, whether we want to make any changes to it.
Are you talking about the two run-on sentences?
Yes.
Okay. Does that not go hand in hand with the core beliefs? Or are they separate?
I think that they have to work together, but I think that they're two separate things. That's my thought.
Well, I'm gonna circle back to my orientation earlier, and that we provide an opportunity, especially if the number 2 core value is that we solicit and collaborate with parents, teachers, staff, students, and the community to inform our actions. I would love to provide an opportunity for these documents to be public and for the community to have an opportunity to weigh in.
Well, as I like to say, how would that look to you, Director Austin, sir?
I don't know if it would look much different than what we've already decided earlier this evening. It provides an opportunity. It would just simply be, before we take action on adopting this, let's just let it be out there and give an opportunity for people to weigh in on that. Let us, as a board, take that input and allow it to inform our action.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to comment on that? Or comment about what we should do, or what Chris had to say?
I like both of these documents. I think the only minor change I might suggest is where it says defined in the Declaration of Independence. I might change defined to provided. Provided in the Declaration of Independence of the United States Constitution. And then we can add a comma after courage in the second sentence. But other than that, I like it. I would note that we've been working on these publicly for a couple months now, and the goal in creating them has been that they would be the board's mission statement, the board's core beliefs. There was a conscious goal, I think, by most of the board members that this would be limited to the board. I'm not saying I want to cut out public participation, because we are the representatives of the public, but it was consciously to get away from a sort of like committee approach and get into like just each board member's thoughts on things, and so the way we did things with Tina and Karen was very driven to that. It was very much a matter of being asked, what do you mean by this term, and what do you think of this, and things like that. So although I certainly respect Chris's idea about it never hurts to get more thoughts and take more time and reflect longer, it seems a bit odd to me and a bit incongruent to go through this process in this fashion to simply at the end sort of step away from it and sort of throw it open in a way that kind of jeopardizes what we set out on and could lead to things just sort of being watered down and pulled in multiple different directions. So I think we should probably stick to our guns, stick to what our plan here was, which was to get each director's viewpoints and try and coalesce around the director's viewpoints versus it becoming just sort of a too many cooks stirring the soup kind of thing.
That's like my biggest concern, that if we start we've been spending months on this and getting the words out, and so I wanna keep it to the board and edit. I want the public to see it. I hope they have been following and reading the paper the last 2 months discussing this. I know Mr. Owen, he actually did, he sort of spoke about and watched us do all this stuff and talked about it and watched the process. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the process would look like once we open the floodgates and how we get those words and buckets back in there. I think that's my question.
So maybe I need clarity. If this is the board's vision and mission statement, how does that differ from the district's strategic plan? Or are they one and the same in your opinion? Because that might help bring some clarity to like the community's involvement. If it's the board's vision and mission statement, or is it like, you know, like we have this strategic plan that has been really, the salient points have been put in the what we believe in dynamic with that statement above. I guess that would help. I think it would help maybe the community understand. I mean, is this what we're calling our strategic plan?
When we met together with the subcommittee, we talked about that this was the board's direction, and really kind of the next place the district needs to go is to engage in that strategic planning.
Okay.
That's the long-term planning that would be driven by this statement to inform that process, but then it would be that process of great stakeholder, you know, task force groups, you
Yes.
know. I've lost all the words because it's almost like.
So that eases my energy because it helps bring clarity. I just want to make sure that we're all clear as a board that this is the board's vision and mission statement that will in turn drive and inform a strategic plan that will involve more community input. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, that's what I thought based on our discussions.
Okay.
Because like the strategy and the tactics were, you know, after the beliefs and the mission and stuff.
Right, they had a whole separate chalkboard.
Yeah, they have that.
Yes. They're two separate things. That's why I was thinking we should, if we're voting on the mission and voting on the core values rather than as one lump thing. Is that reasonable?
Well, I like both of these and I'd be happy to support them.
Do we need to make a motion for the amendments, like as far as define and changing that to, you said provided?
So do you?
And a comma after courage?
Yeah.
With that? Okay.
I would like to ask that we have it written out and then read or reread the edited version so that we have exactly what we're voting for. So, but anyway, first, I would like to have a motion on the mission or our purpose statement. So if we're going to adapt, if this is what we want for us, I would like to do it one at a time, if we would.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, so you want me to read the edited version first?
Yes.
Okay. You want me to go ahead? I'll read it, Sue. Woodland Park School District exists to establish a common foundation of knowledge that cultivates educated citizens who appreciate and contribute to this great American republic as provided in the Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution. Through a rigorous culture of achievement and an ethical code of conduct, students will develop personal discipline, courage, and drive with a willingness to work respectfully with others and equipped to be successful members of a uniquely American society. Change one word.
Do I have a motion?
I would move that we adopt this, which is this one called? This purpose statement, as I just read it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Austin,
No.
Illingworth,
Aye.
Kimbrell. Aye. Patterson.
Aye.
Rusterholz.
Aye. Core beliefs.
So, were we all good on number 2, that it would read soliciting and collaborating with parents, staff, teachers, students, and community to inform our actions which value the merit of each unique student?
Or can it just end after actions?
It could probably end after action, because you have it uniquely in the purpose statement.
Okay, fine with me. I'm fine with ending after action, so period after actions.
I like the valuing the students. The only time in this entire thing that I mean, it's not the only time, but I mean, it's really clear that this is student focused. I like that. I like valuing the merit of each student.
Okay.
I think it'd be great if we
Oh,
could
good.
state it.
Well, then we should state it. I mean, I'm open to
Right,
it.
but if we add it in, Chris, I don't want you to vote no.
Are you sure? I actually like much.
Okay.
Because like I said, it's reminiscent of our buckets.
Do you like the word action then? Are we
Yeah,
all
I
good with
do.
action over direction?
Yeah, it's great.
All right. So,
The third bullet just has a typo with curricular, should be extracurricular.
Yeah.
Instead of particular.
it's not about getting your nails done.
No.
Cuticular.
That's just a typo.
I like cuticular.
What did you guys think of my suggestion for the last one as make rational choices in their private lives and public role? Is that good, or is that still kind of cumbersome?
It seems wordy to me.
Yeah.
It actually feels like a redundancy
Yeah.
to the actual statement that this board just approved. So it feels redundant. It's in the statement. That entire bullet point is in the statement.
It is.
To include personal, discipline and courage and drive and willingness to work respectfully and code of conduct, all of that is in the statement already. And it's also related to their place as successful members in a society. So there's that personal and communal impact. I think it's redundant. I would be okay if that bottom bullet was removed. I would prefer that actually.
Yeah, I would want to keep that bullet because this core belief is kind of an expansion of that statement. And so it makes sense to me to include it as an expansion of it.
Brings it full circle, I
I would
believe.
hate to leave it behind.
It does kind of bring it around full circle. So we believe in the future success of our community, state, and we believe,
It didn't quite fit.
yeah,
We believe in.
we believe the future success of our community, state, and nation depend on an educated citizen who understands the Constitution of the United States as well as the Colorado State Constitution.
Can you make rational?
It does bring it all the way back around.
We
So
can end with choices.
It just seems a little wordy.
okay, so here's something we can do. You could say instead of Constitution of the United States as well as the Colorado State Constitution, you could say understands the constitutions, plural, of the United States and the state of Colorado.
You could also unbullet it and just make it the final statement of your end. Your end statement will have the purpose up above, it'll have the core beliefs, that'll all be on one page.
Oh, and then
So
have
you
this
could
as an.
unbullet it and put it in the bottom.
That sounds like a good idea.
Just to reinforce the initial statement.
Bring it back around, yeah.
Great.
So what is the final what are we going to say the final edit of that ending statement? Mr. Wordsmith, sir.
So I guess what I might propose is the future success of our community, state, and nation depend on an educated citizen who understands the constitutions of the United States and the state of Colorado and can make rational life and political choices.
And what choices? Life and
Political choices, because you all said
Life and public roles is what you had said before.
I know, but
Choices in private life and public roles, that is a little
wordy. So that's why I was saying maybe make rational life and political choices or decisions. That it's just that little bit at the tail is what's confounding us.
No, just rational life.
drop it and just end it with the constitutions of the United States and the state of Colorado, period.
Yeah.
I think that leaves it an open statement for why do they need to understand the Constitution? So they can make good choices.
So the future
Private lives and
success.
public roles, or
We believe the future success of our community, state, and nation depend on an educated citizen. Almost done with that, except it's important to have the constitutions of the United States and Colorado.
And it's stated so nicely up at the top that it
Yeah.
almost takes away from it when you put it down here incompletely. Because I thought that you stated it well up top.
That's why I was suggesting because it is a bit redundant, that we go ahead and eliminate that bottom bullet. Let the top statement stand on its own and let it be supported by these core beliefs.
You're appreciating and contributing, and then you're equipped to be a successful member of a uniquely American society.
Yeah, I could really go either way on that one, but it does, that last statement is not as strong as the second sentence. Would we like to take a vote on the purpose statement now and have further discussion on the last item of our core belief next time, maybe next weekend, or not next weekend, but
We already voted
did
on
the
the purpose
We already did the
Yeah,
purpose.
we agreed on that.
I couldn't hear, everybody said the same. talking.
Yeah, we said the same thing. We already voted for the purpose statement.
Well, yes, yeah, I know, but do we want to work this out now? Because there's good reasons for changing it, eliminating it, that it weakens the others. How much time do we want to spend on editing?
The hard part is you're going to come back into it again fresh, and so then every time we come back to it, we have to start and back. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
That's why it's taken us a while to get here, because we got to backtrack each time we come to it at a different time.
I'd also like to point out in the interim superintendent vacancy paperwork, this is part of it that would go in there.
Okay,
So just kind of now,
okay, so now,
otherwise it'd be the old stuff, and I think you guys probably want new stuff.
understood. All right, so what do we want to do? There's a suggestion to leave it off. And we've got people who want to put it on.
I like keeping it on, but I would just end it after state of Colorado and strike the make rational choices, since that's kind of what's tangling us up here.
That's great.
I agree with that, only because it goes back to saying that, and to Sue's point, like what does it make them do? Well, I would also argue that not only making rational life decisions or personal choices or whatever, but it also says the future success of our community. So we know that they're going to have the future success from having being an educated citizen who understands the constitutions of the United States and the state of Colorado.
Okay.
You want to read it as
Okay.
you propose it?
The future success of our community, state, and nation depend on an educated citizen who understands the constitutions of the United States and the state of Colorado. Okay. Well, I would move that we adopt it as just read and
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Actually, I have a question. Sorry. On the 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth bullet, you guys have in parentheses, what matters is measured. Is that part of it? Or was that supposed to be discussed, or?
No, that comes off.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify.
Strike that.
Okay. So I have the motion and a second by Kimball.
I do have a further question.
Okay.
Are we leaving the as the last one as a bullet point, or is that a closing statement?
I think we're just gonna leave it as a bullet point, right? Is that what you said?
I don't know, I would like to see it as a closing statement.
Fine, closing statement.
Yeah.
Closing statement. Wow. Roll call.
Austin.
Aye.
Illingworth.
Aye.
Kimbrell.
Aye.
Patterson.
Aye.
Rustler.
I don't know. Aye.
Passes.
All right. Mr. Dell.
Well, in your packet, there is the follow-up to our family program that needs to be voted on. So we've had the numerous presentations. I can also include in your packet the recommendation and the WPEA's statement. At this point, it's vote on it.
Yeah, I read through everything you provided, Dell, and I agree with your recommendation. I'm sure it's more than your recommendation. It was the product of a survey and in consultation with the WPEA as well as other administrators. Talked about checking with what other schools and other government agencies have been doing, which was option 2.
Option 2.
Which is no participation. That still allows the employee to opt in if they wish and handle it. So I agree with that.
I would like to, if I may.
Please.
I would like to point out, I tried to research how individuals can do it if they opted on their own, and there is no information of that right now. Their exact words to me were, "We don't have anything other than what's on the website." And I said, well, I would have asked you a question. But anyways, so they haven't really defined that piece other than they'll have to, individuals will register only, they don't have to register until they need it. So they don't have to make the decision to register in January. They can wait 2 years, and if they need it, then they could register, and then they got to go through that piece. So I did try to research that to see what that work would look like, and fortunately, I don't have that because it's not out there.
Do you anticipate that that's a problem? Does that change your recommendation?
No.
So I need a motion whether to accept Dell's suggestion. Is that what the motion is going to be?
I'm sorry. You'll need a motion just on which option you're going to do, because it's not really my suggestion.
Okay.
It's the board's decision.
Well, I would move that we don't participate what's called option number 2, which does happen to be Dell's suggestion. But I would move that we not participate in the program as a board.
And that we choose option 2.
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Austin?
I'm reading, one second. WPEA recommendation,
No more reading.
decline employee participation, and that is the same as.
No, they wanted option 3.
Your recommendation is not, or number 2. Aye.
Is that an aye?
Yes.
Okay. Illingworth?
Aye.
Kimbrell?
Aye.
Patterson?
Aye.
Rusterholz?
Aye.
Motion passes to decline all participation.
Reports and updates. Mr. Owen, sir.
Miles, is this on?
It is.
All right, thank you. Whew, it's been a long evening, so thank you for everything that you've done. So good evening, Board of Directors. Good evening to the interim superintendents. Thank you for having me here this evening. I really do appreciate it. With Veterans Day right around the corner, and we had an election yesterday, by the way, can we celebrate that we had the opportunity in this country to have an election?
Woohoo!
Like, I am thrilled about that. That is exciting. I've had the opportunity to think a lot about this. A lot of the great things that our country offers. We've had a lot of discussion. I've heard you guys talk about this with our mission statement, our core values. Life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. It's exciting to me. But I'll tell you that these things don't come without a price. And we celebrate that this coming Friday. There's been many that have served our country. And that's why we celebrate our veterans and their service to our country. I personally get really excited about this every year. I know that there are many of our staff that have served our country. They are our veterans. Approximately 20 current staff members have been veterans or are currently veterans. We've had several of our veterans retire from Woodland Park as well. We have many current and former students that are either planning on going into the military or have actively signed into the military. Our current students are wanting to go into the military. And for that, I say thank you. I know that I personally have contact with Lieutenant Shelby Lowe. She's one of our Navy recruiters, and she comes and visits with me pretty regularly. We talk about certain students that have that she's looking at recruiting, and I'll tell you that on a yearly basis, she tells me, she brags that Woodland Park produces some of the top students in her programs that come out. Those programs include like their nuclear engineering program. We have the best students. They are both the best prepared and they're top performers. I'll tell you that even more than just our current staff members that have served, we have families. Our staff members, our spouses of military families, our students are part of families of military families. I know that personally, my dad served in the Air Force, both before and during the Persian Gulf War. Later in life, he also served in the U.S. Navy Reserves. So he has spent many, many years in the military. And I can honestly say I'm very proud that I come from a military family. I've learned lots of life lessons. I have learned lots of values from my dad. However, I do remember, I think I attended 6 elementary schools before 5th grade. It was a lot. Our Woodland Park community has recognized this, and they recognize this holiday every single year. We invite our veterans into our high school, and we celebrate on the 11th of November every year. The gym is filled with veterans families, filled with students and their families from each one of our schools. There's patriotic music that's performed. Our bands play, our choirs sing, and we actually even have poetry that's read by our students. But I'll tell you the most impactful thing that sticks out to me every single year, our students interview their family members that have been veterans, and they share those stories. Every single year. That is very, very important to me, and it's impactful. Leading up to this, our schools celebrate Veterans Day every year. This year, I've talked to several of our elementary schools. They're reading the Constitution. They're reading the Declaration of Independence in class. Our middle school, they're sending the 7th and 8th grade classes up to the high school during the ceremony to help us celebrate. I'll tell you that our 6th graders, while the 7th and 8th graders are at the high school, they're planning on studying the Constitution and talking about Veterans Day and what it means. Additionally, Mrs. Goings and our choir director, Kayla Garcia, have been working with Dan Williams. He's one of our
County Commissioner.
Thank you, our county commissioners.
Lieutenant Colonel Dan.
Lieutenant Colonel Dan Williams, thank you. Retired military expert. He's been working with arranging our middle school students to come to a celebration, the Veterans Day celebration, Friday evening at the Cultural Center. And the choir is going to be performing. The middle school students and our staff members are super excited to be participating and enjoying and celebrating our veterans. The high school, we've got several teachers, and not just in our social studies classes, that talk about the Constitution. They talk about why we call Veterans Day Veterans Day, and we talk about the origin of why we do this and why it was originally called Armistice Day. As part of the curriculum in our social studies classes, our students are encouraged to volunteer during this election process that happened yesterday. And I know for a fact, and I have met with several students, that they volunteered in the election process. That is super exciting to me, that we have our students that are engaging. I recently watched The Patriot, classic movie with Mel Gibson, one of my favorites of all time. I watched it when it first came out. It was one of my favorites. But I keep thinking back to this movie, and there's this one part that I want to highlight. If you haven't seen the movie, you'll still get the gist of what I'm talking about. Benjamin Martin, he's the dad. He takes his sons at the beginning of the movie, and he's teaching them how to hunt. He uses the phrase, aim small, miss small. He's talking about not just hunting. He's teaching his boys a life lesson. That lesson is about being purposeful in the moment, setting a goal, a specific goal, hitting the target every single time. Every single time. Aim small, miss small. If the target is set too large, not a lot gets accomplished. But when that goal is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, timely, things get done. My own son, he's on an IEP. Each year we have a team, Better Together, and we get together and we look at several of these little goals. We aim small, we miss small. And over time, my son has grown. It's incredible. When our teachers help students set these purposeful goals, and by the way, we do this in all of our classes, at all of our grades. We help our students set goals. Our students are going to achieve, and they do. Our students learn that to accomplish their bigger projects, it takes a lot of little steps to get there. As a staff, we've been thinking about the end of this semester that's coming up. However, a lot of it is overwhelming for our students and our staff. When you look at the big picture, our schools have been promoting a 2x2 idea. As of Monday, we had 2 weeks until Thanksgiving break. After Thanksgiving, we've got about 2 weeks until we've got some mid-year assessments that are going on. And when we break it into these smaller goals, we set purposeful instruction, we aim small, we miss small. We get a lot done. Mother Teresa once said, we can actually not do great things, only small things, but with great love. As a staff, individually, we can't do great things individually, but we can come together and we can each do our little part. When we set our goals, we aim small, we miss small. And we can come together and we can do great things. And that's what we are doing. As long as we do it with great love. We aim small, we miss small.
Thank you, Nate. Do you have that whole thing written down?
Maybe.
That was very good, thank you.
Very cool.
I really appreciated that.
I almost feel like we need like a moment of silence for our veterans. Veterans Day.
On the 11th. Did I miss something?
No, I'm just.
We have no questions, we're speechless.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. It's been.
Thank you, Nate.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Nate.
Okay. Dr. Peckron. Merit Academy update.
Nicely said, Mr. Owen. Thank you for that. Welcome to November. Thank you for inviting me here tonight. I also have written mine down because I just wanted to stay on task. Our past month has been wonderfully productive as we live out our intent for excellence in academics and in conduct. We just celebrated our Autumn Book Festival with every student K-5 split by their houses. In small groups, they read books, discussed the literary meaning, character build, moral of the story, favorite character, and impact of the decision or the turning point. The students also worked together to decorate a pumpkin and also a storyboard that showcased their main point or main character. They practiced their presentation skills as they talked about their book to visitors and other students. We then furthered that celebration outside with a petting zoo of baby goats. That was a hit, where they learned about those goats, and they also engaged in games like pumpkin bowling, tug of war. Several of our older students contributed to the festivities by face painting, reading to the students in the reading groups, taking photos, helping with crafts, and more. Again, it was one of our celebrations of the importance we place on literacy, vertical integration of our grades, and our school-wide culture. We also had our winter dance for our upper school, which went very well. All of our students were quite respectful and had a wonderful time learning some new dance steps and the basic foundational principles of courtesy, manners, etiquette, and so forth. Outdoor ed survival skills class, they went to Mueller State Park, where they learned some archery and fly fishing. We are completing our COGAT testing for potentially gifted and talented students, and we are planning out our mid-year MAP testing to happen soon. Our CAP cadets, our new students have met the standard for their Curry Award, and our airmen are qualifying for their Arnold Award as Airmen First Class. The requirements involve physical fitness, drill and ceremony, and a written test on leadership and aerospace education. We also have students who are applying for the Winter Encampment Program, which is a week at Fort Carson from December 29th to January 5th. Let's see. We just completed our second event of our lecture series regarding America's founding, presented by Dr. Tom Cranwitter. He's a known scholar and expert in constitutional civics. It is our plan to offer one such lecture series per semester where our community can come together for conversation on the founding of our republic, hear of historical moments as has been captured in original source documents, and eat a good meal and enjoy one another's company. We are also working with Pikes Peak State College and the University of Colorado Systems regarding future concurrent enrollment or dual credit courses. This coming semester, several of our freshmen will be taking their second semester of a 3-credit college English course in composition and literature. Many are closing out their first semester here this semester. We are also moving our college algebra students who are nearing their completion of a successful semester of this college math course to their college trig course next semester. And next year we are working on offering AP Bio to our upper level sophomores, which is our next level of class. It's our freshmen now. They're always going to be that oldest class of the school. So next year as sophomores, they will have the opportunity to take AP Bio or chemistry, as well as getting approval for our second year of U.S. history from the Civil War onward as a potential dual credit or concurrent enrollment college class. In addition to the next levels of English and math as college offerings per the needs of our students. One quote that we revert to every now and again is Ben Franklin's quote, and he said, "I think also that general virtue is more probably to be expected and obtained from the education of youth than from the exhortations of adult persons. Bad habits of the mind, being like diseases of the body, more easily prevented than cured." So we use that, and in our staff development, we talk about various things that we think are impacting our education and our culture as a new school, as a new classical school. So in our October staff development, we just kind of caught on to this, it was kind of random, onto this conversation of rigor versus excellence. And of course, our college English professor decided she was going to look that up. Rigorous, with the root word rigor, means inflexible, stiff, harsh. We further our discussion by discussing rigor mortis, and rigorous being from the Latin rigorum, meaning numbness, stiffness, hardness, or rudeness. In today's meaning, it also means harsh or difficult, strictly or inflexibly to opinion. But what is our real intent with these words? Upon further reflection, we mean that Merit Academy is committed to academic excellence, the act of being very good of its kind, first class, virtuous. Intensive curriculum, which means highly concentrated, intended to strengthen or increase, and high expectations of respectful and responsible conduct. So those are some of the things that we discuss when we have our professional development. It's actually quite invigorating. Veterans Day celebration we have coming up on Friday for our local vets as well. And we have guest speakers being our students presenting to them, as well as our choir is going to sing. And so that is our Friday afternoon, and we have our veterans coming in to celebrate that. In our PD, we also discuss employing our virtues through conversation and mindful behavior as staff and as students. These conversations focus on classical education, virtues, and our school-wide culture for excellence in academics and conduct. In that, we are always preparing for the next step in our next lessons. We're already receiving intent to enroll forms for 23-24 school year, and while I have not formally counted our waitlist numbers, we look to be facing about another 100 students currently for next year. Several families have asked about semester enrollment, and so we are responding to them regarding which grades have openings and which programs we have available and so forth. Our intent to enroll will culminate rather quickly here with a lottery likely in late February or at the very latest early March for next year's enrollment and registration process. And that is what's happening at Merit Academy. So, thank you.
Very good.
Questions?
Quinn, what is Merit Academy doing for Veterans Day?
We have our local family veterans, and I think we've reached out to several others as well. We didn't want to conflict with what the district is doing. And so they are coming in the afternoon. We have our 8th grade class president is going to speak. I believe our 9th grade class president, the overall class president is going to speak. Our choir is singing a couple of songs, and then there's going to be refreshments and so forth with the veterans and their families.
That's in the afternoon?
It's in the afternoon. I think it starts at 2:30. Anything else? Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you, Glenn.
All right, superintendent report.
So report, I was just highlighting some of the elements. You want to pass one over?
Oh.
Strategic
I thought they were all
elements.
for me.
Yeah. Looking at some of the goals we set at the beginning of the year, so these are just a few highlights in those buckets. So building rigor, which we don't look at as rigid. So building rigor, Nate alluded a little to this. Our elementary's really going after what we're calling our elementary 2x2. So that laser focus on rigor and instruction, the 2 weeks we're headed into Thanksgiving, the 2 weeks coming out, leading into our mid-year testing. So really working with our students on setting goals, tracking those learning goals. Teachers are leaning into and principals are looking for our high-yield instructional strategies, so really being purposeful about that. And I think all 3 of our elementary teachers admin sending out to parents information on how they partner with us to build those strong home routines, preparing kids, making sure they're sleeping well, eating well, setting goals with their children, and engaging in learning activities at home. When you look at our goal that was leaning into mentoring, just wanted to highlight our new things going on with our new staff. So our new staff induction takes a look at our staff that are working for their professional licenses. So our new teachers have been working with Karen over the last few weeks, all year, but over the last few weeks they've been out visiting schools. So Karen has taken that group out and they are together walking through classrooms and taking a look at quality instructional practices and discussing what they're seeing. So a nice little professional learning experience for them. And Laura Magnuson doing the same kind of idea for our special service providers. She is engaging with them in case management dialogues where they sit together and bring cases and talk about strategies and how they would work with that. And she has the benefit of both new staff and veteran staff that are working to become licensed clinical practitioners. Looking at stakeholder voice, Del and I are continuing our networking tour. So continuing to meet, we still have first responders, business people coming up, but we've now added to our calendar staff listening tour. So we will be out in all 5 of our buildings before the winter break. And we'll be there all day for staff to sign up and drop by and just talk with us about wins, what we're calling wins, great starts, opportunities, and challenges. So just having some dialogue with staff members in all of our buildings. We are also hosting a luncheon networking event for our middle school students, our 9th and 10th graders, and our 11th and 12th graders. We're providing the lunch, they're providing the feedback. So we're going to chat with them about instructional strategies that they feel like are fostering or impeding their learning, opportunities and challenges. So the opportunity for them to have some feedback. We will also hit up our 5th grade classrooms. We just don't have that booked out quite yet. And then finally, some celebrations. So wanted to share, last time when we presented academic dialogue, we did not, our academic data, we did not have the PSAT scores for the high school. So they took a practice test. It was actually happening on the day of the board meeting. So we have those scores for 9th and 10th grade. Our 9th graders are 24 points higher than last year's 9th graders at the same time. 88 points higher than pre-pandemic. Wow. So when we looked back at the same practice test back before the pandemic, our 9th graders are 88 points higher. So thanking our middle school for preparing them to hit the high school ready to learn. Our 10th graders are 36 points higher than last year's 10th graders. And they are 114 points higher against themselves from 9th grade to 10th grade. So on the PSAT, their score has gone up by 114 points. points.
Wow.
So on this practice test. So 8th grade or 11th grade scores are due back the first part of December. So we're anxious to see those. If you arrived a little early tonight, you got to see our high school volleyball team take off. You saw a little parade out there. If you saw that traffic and wondered why they were out in front of Gateway, they were sending off our high school volleyball team to the state tournament. They swept the regional tournament, so did not lose a game. And that was not at home, that was away. So they swept that. They play tomorrow at 11 a.m. in the state tournament. First time in 30 years to send the team up.
I was able to watch that live because Jason Roshek live streams that via Facebook. And I'm hoping that he'll do that for the state as well. I don't know if he'll even be there. I'm imagining he will.
You think so?
Yeah, I imagine he will. And so I just want to point out that if you're, like most of us, are unable to go travel and watch the game, Jason Roshek live streams those games on his Facebook page. Wow. It's really fun to watch.
It will also most likely be on the CHASA website.
Great.
So we'll be streaming it, probably not Jason Roshek's version at our high school.
He's a good commentator. He's
Yeah.
really pretty fun behind the scenes.
We'll be streaming that tomorrow for our students also to
That's
watch
fun.
here at the high school.
It's great.
And then just put some upcoming events there. Veterans Day, please join us this Friday. It is a grand affair at 9:30 at the high school gym. It is posted as a meeting, so you all may be there. This weekend, also make sure to get your Treasure Island tickets to the play. Mr. Burr is no longer here, it's past his bedtime, but he is debuting in the show and has quite a dramatic part if you wanna see that. Empty Bowls Night is next November 17th from 5 to 8 at the Cultural Center. So our students across the district have been making little clay bowls and they're firing them. And you can pay your $10 and you get to take away a bowl and soup. So one of those handmade bowls. So please join us there. It is all of our schools. And then Thanksgiving break, the week of November 21st.
Thank you very much. Any questions? All right. Board of Education reports.
Have a great week, and I will see you at the Veterans Day celebration. And Treasure Island, we got that.
Anyone else? Do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Austin.
Aye.
Illingworth.
Aye.
Kimbrell.
Aye.
Patterson.
Aye.
Rusterholz.
Aye. I always want to say no.
Yeah, then we'll sleep.
So that next week.